Hey, welcome to Dogman Teepee Hunting. And if you're listening to this, it'll be on the Interdimensional Voyagers podcast. Hope you're all well. It's Friday, end of the week, which is absolutely fantastic because it's been a hell of a week. So got interview, and it's with a guy, a very clued up guy, Rob Shelsky. Absolutely an author who's written a ton load of books. All up your street. It's going to be just an eclectic mix of paranormality and UFOs and quantum entanglement, all kinds of stuff. Very interesting guy. Very interesting. So I'm really, honored and pleased he's come on. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to play, I think, a bit of AI for you, okay? And then I'm gonna just show you a few things that he does. This will introduce you to him and give you a bit of a background, okay? So uh, uh, also, let's have a look at the comments. What's going on with the comments, first of all? Uh, oh, hello, Drew. Wolfborn, hello. We have Dawn, hello, Dawn. Kate, yeah. Biddy. Oh, Larry, how you doing, Larry? Thank you for making it, mate. Dragonborn, yes. Good evening. Good evening, Colin from the Dark 66. Hello. Biddy. Yeah. Oh, we got Oh, well, blimey, O'Reilly. Usually it's just my mother watching it, and even she turns off halfway through. So I'm quite lucky. Thank you guys for joining. Appreciate that. Right, without further ado, as they say, I'm going to just play a little bit of AI, and let's have a look and see.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here to sift through a mountain of information and give you the essential insights.
And today we've got a really fascinating synthesis challenge on our hands. We're looking at the work of Rob Shelsky.
Right, Rob Shelsky. And his output is eclectic, to say the least. We're talking someone with roots in science, technical writing, history, travel.
Who then dives headfirst into topics like shadow
Yeah, I'm going to bring on the man himself, and let's get him on. Right. Okay. Wow, Rob. We are. Oh, hang on, Rob. Okay, Rob, your microphone. Your mic. You got to press your mic button.
Oh yeah, I just didn't want to have it on while you were talking.
No, I get it. I get it. Yeah, I know you could hear it. I could hear it, but people were at home couldn't hear that. It was just a bit of a shame. I'll try and play it a little bit later anyway. That's fine. Anyway, Rob, thanks for joining, man.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. Just one quick question. When I muted my microphone, it didn't mute the introduction, did it? I hope.
No, it shouldn't have done.
Oh,
It shouldn't
okay. I
have
just
done.
wanted to make sure I'm not interfering with your systems
Yeah,
at all. This
no,
Streamcast is fairly new.
yeah, no, it shouldn't have done, but you know, over the way it's going tonight, and anything's possible. Anything's possible. It's just been one of those nights, isn't it?
Yes, it has been.
So, right, I'll just turn the light up a little bit. Okay, right. That's better. Oh, you can see me. Right then. So, what have we got? We've got you're born in Texas, is that right?
Yeah, don't spread it around. I'm not too proud of it.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No. Texas is cool. Oh, I haven't been down to Texas, but I've heard it's cool. Massachusetts. You were raised in Massachusetts. Traveled to Australia.
Yeah, my mother was Australian. I'm an Australian citizen as well as American.
Okay. And California. You attended the Southwestern College and University of Victoria, British Columbia, Canada, and San Diego State University.
Yeah, I was the perennial student.
Okay. Your background's in science, technical writing, English, history, travel, degree in science. Now you publish loads and loads of stories. I've been going through them, and it's like the books are just a plethora of books. You've written some romance as well, some romance novels.
Yeah, I'm a romantic by heart. Actually,
Awesome.
I do the sweet romances. I do the historical romances, Regency romances, Victorian romances. I don't do a lot, and I do cozy murder mysteries because I like the who done it kind of murder mystery. You know, not
Okay.
all the. I don't like people getting beaten up or killed. I just want that body in the library and then figure out how it got there. You know.
Okay. Yeah. It was the butler. Normally is the butler. It normally is, isn't it? Okay, you write factual articles for such magazines as the Internet Review of Science Fiction, Nemotropolis.
Neometropolis, yeah.
Neometropolis. I'm glad you said that. Midnight Street Doorways, and many others. Bi-monthly columnist for Alien Skin magazine.
Yeah, I had to do investigative reporting for the magazine for some 7 years, and I had to investigate places like the Brown Mountain Lights here in North Carolina. Excuse me, and I've had to do the UFO investigations, ghost investigations of the Prospect Mansion in Southern Ohio. She sent me all over the place.
Yeah, because weren't you part of MUFON as well?
I'm sorry.
Were you part of MUFON as well? MUFON?
Oh, yes, MUFON. Yes, I was. Yeah, I was a field investigator for 3 years at MUFON. Good friends with the state director here in North Carolina. I did leave MUFON though because, well, for me it was gathering data, and they were great at gathering data, but they don't seem to use it. They're like building this vast archive or repertoire of cases, but now we should be sifting through it and massaging the media, so to speak, and trying to find some answers. You know, and they don't seem to be doing that.
No, they don't seem to have an interest in the actual. They have very strong interest and very, very good at research. I mean, they're very detailed in their research. They will measure. They will take temperature readings. Every single facet of an investigation you could possibly think of, they will take that measure. But when it comes to finding out why, I don't
or
think they.
how, or who.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are, and also the board changed on MUFON a couple of years back. Well, actually, a few years now, and it's almost, I shouldn't say it, I guess, but it seems as if the board became up for grabs for people who could donate a lot of money to MUFON. One of the women that went on the board was a trans channeler, and she claimed to be trans channeling a 50,000-year-old dead alien. Now, she may be. I'm not going to say she isn't. I don't know. I really don't know one way or the other, but it's getting away from the hard facts. I'm a hard fact kind of guy. I want to kick the tires of a UFO. I don't want to just get mental messages from a dead alien. And I mean, how do you corroborate or prove that? You can't use a scientific method on stuff like that. And again, I'm not saying it's not true, but it's not a way for me to collect the data I need to try to find answers. And most of all, what I want are answers.
It's subjective, isn't it? It's going to be,
Very subjective. Yeah.
it's subjective kind of and it's verging into the realms of kind of you can't substantiate what they say because what they experience is personal to them, and it's very difficult, isn't it, to
Oh,
quantify.
yeah, it's impossible to quantify under those circumstances. And it's not that it may not be true. It's just that there's no way to double check it and to repeat the experiment, so to speak. So you only have that one person's word for it, and they could very well be telling you the truth, or they could be telling you the truth as they see it, or they could be suffering from some kind of illness or hallucinations. I don't know. But I like verifiable proof. I want to kick the tires of that UFO. I want to feel it and touch it and know it's really there.
Yeah,
I don't think they have
yeah.
tires, but you know what I mean.
Well, they could well do. I mean, we'll go on to your book about quantum and reality in a little while. They could very well have tires. It all depends on to a certain degree. If you're a bit of an advocate, as I am, of biocentrism, it could well be a self-projection of our intent, what we see, our imaginings of a UFO will have tires, so it will have tires. Yeah, anything is possible. That's the fascinating part of all this, really. I'm just going to put a couple of books up just to cover, so that we can just kick this off a little bit. First one I've got to kick off, which is going to be very interesting, is this one, Rob. Shadow People, Threat of Darkness. What's that about?
Just about what it says, shadow people, in the sense that I I don't try to make anyone believe anything. I just give them the facts and let them come to their own conclusions. I do try to steer them a little bit because I do want them to understand how I feel about it, but I don't try to get conclusions for them. But my conclusions are, after researching it, is shadow people are real. They do exist, whether they're from another dimension or they're a part of our natural reality here and always have been, and we just don't see them. I'm not sure, but yes, they do exist, and they seem to be able to cloak themselves completely and partially, and sometimes by accident we see them, and they seem to be able to get into anywhere and go through anything. They see them in hallways, they race after them, and it's a dead end hallway, but they're gone. So it's almost like they can translocate or something like that. But yeah, they seem to have been here, always been here, and I'm not sure what they're after, but some of it doesn't seem to be too good.
No, have you seen a shadow person?
Yes, several times. I think everyone has. You can't say that you've never caught something out of the corner of your eyes and turned and there was nothing there, but you were sure someone or something had been there, just a glimpse of them. I think everyone on the planet has done that several times over at least. You see something move out the window, you turn to look, and there's nothing there, and you think, oh, it must have been a bird flying by or a branch or something. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's something real.
Yeah, we're you know, through evolution, we're conditioned to recognize uh, objects or beings or things that are moving, and also our peripheral vision is sometimes better in a lot of cases than our forward. I've forgotten the word now, but our front-facing vision, our peripheral, we notice more because of the movement. I've seen a shadow being, and I found it one of the most um, scariest things that I've ever encountered. And I've encountered a few sketchy things in my time, but the shadow person was. I had the archetypal. I was in bed, and I couldn't move. Woke up, couldn't move. I could move my head, and that was it. And then, basically, really quickly, I saw a swirl of black smoke in the corner of the bedroom. Well, again, I can't move my arms, can't move my legs well. And it then took form, and the swirling smoke raised up against the wall, and it became a figure. Now you're gonna get this right. It's a truth, absolute. Well, my truth, my interpretation, my truth. But I called it the Ebon Pyramidium, yeah, Black Pyramid, because it was completely made up of, think of the Pied Piper, but the arms, the legs, everything was made up of triangles, and it had a hat, not the usual Hatman hat. It had a pointy hat, and it moved along the wall, and then it stopped. And remember, it's only a shadow to me, but when it stopped, it looked to be looking at me or facing me. It noticed me. And it was at that point that I peed myself basically in bed. The fear was something which was like kind of and I'm not talking I was 6, I was in my 20s, late 20s. And you know, and the fear was palpable, Rob. The fear was palpable, and it was the most. It wasn't a fear of being eaten. It wasn't a fear of impending threat. The fear came from an all-pervasive feeling of evil, of despair, and that's the only time I've ever come across that feeling before, and it was awful. So yeah, shadow people, oh, they're scary. They are scary.
And we don't know why, but there does seem to be fear strongly associated with the sightings. Plus, they're very big in our culture and have been for a long time. They date way back. In the Middle East, there was a figure called the Hag, also in Eastern Europe. Um, there's all sorts of figures in history. By the way, you mentioned the Hat Man. The Hat Man, have you ever watched the Freddy Krueger movies?
Yeah.
Yeah, Freddy Krueger is based on the Hat Man, complete with the
Mm,
hat.
yeah.
The director will tell you that he's based it on the shadow person, the Hat Man, and the Hat Man seems to be a recurring theme. Now, whether these things are real or not is, I'm not going to say it's anyone's guess. I personally think they're real. I think they exist, and there have been cases where people have seen things that were partially cloaked or not cloaked, and the end result is something is going on. There was a case in Mexico where a family's sitting on a porch. They're all there. Someone's videoing them from across a dirt road. A car goes racing down the road, raises a cloud of dust. People are sitting on the veranda looking in that direction, but pay no attention. They're chatting, talking, laughing. Then right behind the car comes what I thought was kind of like a motorcycle, but it was just a blur. And it shot down the road. And it did raise a little dust. No one on the veranda seemed to notice it, but one man did. He got up. He was sitting at the edge of the veranda on the left side as you're facing the house. He came down the stairs, walked down the road, and looked down the road after. And he didn't do it when the car went by. He did it when whatever this other thing was that went by. Now, we know cloaking devices exist. We have them ourselves. Some are better than others. We don't know how good the government secret ones are, but we know the professor in Japan developed a good cloaking cloth that was very efficient at hiding people by bringing the background around to the front of them and making it look like a continuous thing when it's not. If another race has been around a long time on Earth, they could have developed it a long time ago. Maybe they have it naturally, but it seems like sometimes we see them more than other times. But also, it's like you were saying, like it was coalescing smoke. We've seen a lot of that too. So whatever these things are, they're. I have this theory that our reality is far bigger here on Earth than we realize. And the Earth may not only exist in three dimensions that we think of as normal space time, it may exist in multiple dimensions. And what we're seeing are creatures that exist on Earth, just not in our dimension. But
I
every
don't
now and then
know.
we get a glimpse of them.
I don't know, Rob. I mean, I don't particularly like the word dimensions. I'll tell you why, because it dimensions implies material. It implies kind of like we can't have an overlapping of dimensions, because there's just there would be like too many balls on a billiard table, and they'd be scattering all over the place, and it would have an adverse effect on time and gravity in our dimension. So I think it's I think it is a bleed over. I think there's points at which we I mean, we're going to go on to Mandela effect. I know we are, but there's points in which there is a bleed over, almost a crossover point that we meet. And I had the impression with shadow people that they're as real as you or I, and maybe to them, a bit like the ghosts, maybe to them, we are the shadow beings, if you like.
Sounds like the movie The Others with Nicole Kidman. That was
Yeah,
what that movie was about. Yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah.
when I say dimensions, I'm just, it's not exactly other dimensions, but if, for instance, how much can you see with your eyes of the electromagnetic spectrum?
No,
You see a
tiny
very
bit.
narrow
Yeah.
bit. Yeah, you see from what the red up to the almost ultraviolet blue, and that's what we don't see. But the spectrum doesn't stop there in either direction. It goes way on into the infrared, radio waves. It goes on into the ultraviolet, X-rays, gamma rays, and they're all visible to instruments. We just don't see them because our eyes aren't capable of seeing them. But it doesn't mean they're not there. It doesn't mean that neutrinos aren't flooding your body every second by the millions and passing
Yeah.
right on through you as if you were a ghost. They're there. You just don't see them. So we think, oh, they don't exist. But what if the Earth is like that? What if there's more to reality? Let me put it that way if you don't like dimensions. More to reality than we can see or hear or touch or taste. What if it's just beyond our normal sensor range? Obviously, we have tons of stuff that's beyond our visual range, beyond our hearing range. What makes you think it stops there? Maybe it's also physically touching and smelling and tasting as well. So, I mean, yeah, that's the one of my fictional books is based on that very idea, and it takes place in Cornwall, England. But it's to get that idea across.
I mean, when you think about it, it on the quantum level, the only reason that mostly everything is space, isn't it? On a quantum level, the table that I've got this laptop on, that's on a quantum level, it's mostly all space.
99.9999% vacuum. Yeah.
Yeah, the only reason that I feel the table is because of atomic repulsion. That's the only reason that I feel it, really. And that, once again, like you say, quite rightly so, it is a case of the synapses firing off from input from our eyes, which is again taken from sunlight, which takes 7 minutes to travel down to kind of like to project itself into our hippocampus and say, look, okay, we're here, this is it. So everything is frequency. Like you say, we look at a very narrow spectrum of frequency when it comes to light frequency. There is a far vaster spectrum out there that we can't see, that other entities could use to materialize in. Neutrinos, I love the idea of neutrinos. I can't wait until they find the relic neutrinos that is very often spoken about at the beginning I think it's the first 5 minutes after the Big Bang. We're still waiting to detect the relic neutrinos. We're trying very hard to try and gather information on those at the moment. But yeah, I like the idea of those because it's the only particle I know which has any mass to it, which is flooding our system by millions. Me babbling on at this very moment, I'm actually being hit by billions of neutrinos at the moment, and all of them have mass, which is fascinating.
Very little mass, though. Very, very little mass.
Very, very
That's why they
little
used to be called ghost particles, and that's why they can go through you so easily.
Yeah.
They
That's
almost
it.
never interact with us. Never.
Yeah.
Well, they interact, but very rarely. Very rarely.
I mean, don't they have detectors in mines, don't they? They put the detector plates in deepest part of a mine to try and slow them up to a degree so that they can be detected on the lead plate or something it is.
Yes, well, they have huge volumes of the clearest, cleanest water we've ever seen on Earth in a number of mines in Japan, also in Canada. And the reason, and they have all these detectors in there, and occasionally, very, very rarely, a neutrino will interact with a regular particle, and it creates a little flash that the detectors pick up on their cameras, and that's how they can detect if neutrinos are there. Now, here's an oddity: we have neutrinos seemingly coming out of the Antarctic region, South Polar region, going out into space, and they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be, and they're wondering if they're coming from a mirror universe of our own, where they're anti neutrinos. So instead of pouring down into the Earth, they're coming up out of the Earth or from the parallel Earth. But it's where time runs backwards and everything is antimatter, basically. That's one theory. But we can't account for these neutrinos that are shooting up out of the South Polar area, and we don't know exactly how that's possible.
Yeah, no, true. Yeah, that is fascinating. And that detectors, they've got a whole array of these, like almost they look like seismic modules buried really deep in the Antarctic, and just for this very reason, to detect these things. That's how they detected them. But yeah, fascinating. I thought that was absolutely fascinating, Rob, when I read that. I was like, oh, back to shadow people just quickly. You mentioned in the past that the beings might be from parallel realities, but considering historical references to beings like the Jinn and the Hat Man, why do you suggest that if a shadow person can have a physical effect on the environment, they might be more than just a disembodied ghost?
Well, excuse me. I think I know you don't like the concept of other dimensions, so maybe just an expanded reality would be a better way to go. But they aren't just ghosts, and they can interact. They can actually reach in and touch people. There's a case on the internet where these people have a nanny cam up in the child's bedroom, the baby's bedroom, and this shadow creature, the hand comes up the crib. You can see it clearly on camera and reaches in towards the baby, and then they shout something and it disappears. This happens to children a lot in their rooms. So the idea of the monster under the bed, I have begun to wonder lately if there isn't something to that in some sense of the word, because why is it that so often these things seem to be in children's bedrooms, in closets, and in dark places? They seem to inhabit dark corners. Also, old abandoned buildings. Ghost hunters come across shadow people all the time in these abandoned buildings. They seem to like dark corridors, dark places, and quite often there's no way for them to get out. So, how they get in and how they get out, I'm not sure, but they seem to be able to control their nature of their solidarity, or what would be the term? Not solidarity so much as their solidness. That's an awful word, but that's kind of the way I look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, they can either go through walls or they can touch you. Why? How is it they can do both? But they seem to be able to do both sometimes.
It's odd, isn't it? I know the thing with children is it is a bit of a oddity, it seems to be one of these things which I don't know, it kind of, I've got a theory, and that is because with children, they very often their heads aren't formed till much later. not properly. They're not. The skull is not actually fused together till much later. So I believe there are a lot more. This is only theory, but I believe they're a lot more susceptible to. I'm going to say dimensions. I'm going to say it, right? Because it's the only, as you it's the only way to describe it. It is the only way to, that is universally known. I think they're more susceptible to the incoming frequencies. They can pick up easier because the head isn't fused together, formed as such. It's a bit like there. I'll tell you what I can use. There is a thing used to be popular in the 60s, right, when people were kind of like taking different substances and sort of like getting in touch with nature and kind of getting really high as a kite and all the rest of it. People started talking and trying out trepanation. Now that is I've got to be careful here.
Drilling a hole in the skull.
Drilling a hole in the skull. Now a lot of times, there was one famous lady, I forgot her name at the moment, I'll find it out, but and what they did this for was to open themselves up with trepanation. It allows them to open their head up literally, and they very often would say, there'll be groups of people doing it, very often would say that they would reach a higher level of consciousness, a higher understanding of the other world. Beings would come in, visit them.
Well, did they also do it to release the ill humors and the demons that were trapped inside the skull that they thought were causing the problems the person was having?
There was in olden times there was a great veneration for these if you like witch doctors, or I don't like using that term, witch doctors, but they would follow a ritual for trepanation.
Medicine men.
Yes,
Medicine men is a better term. Yeah.
That's a better term.
But
Yeah,
the Greeks did it, the Romans did it, and I think even the Chinese did it way back a couple thousand years ago. So it's been around a long time.
Yeah. Well before the onset of the more conventional exorcisms by suggestion of force, or force of suggestion, if you like, they would use trepanation, and they would release the demons within the person through the head, because the person is, when you think about it, you can transplant nearly every organ in the body except the brain. The person is the brain, and the brain is the person. So that is the focal point.
Well, there's some people that would kind of argue that a little bit now. The holographic theory is that one cell in your body contains basically the universe, and the universe contains you in a holographic setting. That the part is also the whole, and the whole is also the part. There is some scientific evidence to support that, and some physicists and cosmologists actually believe we live in a holographic universe. In which case, it's non-local. We have proven, by the way, at least locally, that reality is non-local. That reality does. We actually have proved that locally, reality is an illusion. Now, I'm not saying that. I mean, scientists have said that recently. The physicists say that we have definite proof that reality is non-local. And that is an incredible thing to try to understand. But it could be, for instance, what if the brain isn't you? What if it's a receiver? Let me ask you a question. When a radio station plays music, where is the music?
Yes. Yeah, the music, the music, from my perspective, will be coming out of the speaker.
Right. But people could argue just as rationally and reasonably that it's coming from the station, that it's in the air as radio waves, or that it's in your receiver coming out as sound, or that it's on the records you're playing in the radio station, or that it was the musicians who recorded the record. Where is the music at any given moment? It's pretty hard to say. The music is on the record, it is playing the radio station, it is in the air, it is in your home in the receiver, and it is in your ears, and so it's in your brain. So how do you pinpoint what? So what if our brains are just receivers? What if the you that you think is you is just a part of a much greater you that happens to be using you and your brain as receiver? And it would explain that when the brain is damaged, why people don't function as well. The receiver has been broken.
Well, I mean, the constraints of contextual reality is thus that I mean, we I mean, take states of matter change. And states of matter, like the radio and the frequency, is it a frequency at the time of it being transmitted, or at the origin when the needle hits that record, going back a few years, and plays the vinyl? At what state is it playing? At what state is it playing? I get what you mean, and it's like the rationale would
No,
be.
not so much at what state, but where at any given moment. When I hear music coming out of my speakers in my house, where is the music really? Is it coming out of the speakers of my house? It's not in any one place. It's everywhere. And
No,
if there is such a thing as a quantum unconsciousness, it may be that our brains are just good receivers. And the better your brain, the better the receiver. A cat doesn't receive like we would receive. More primitive, smaller brain.
yeah, but you see, everything is subjective to us. So on your individual, if I'm listening to the radio and we're listening to the same tune, okay, we're listening, and
Mhm.
you're over there listening to it, all right. I'm in the padded room and I'm listening to the same tune. It's the state at which I'm listening to it is when I'm listening to it, okay? Because I don't. It's only when I personally hear it will it exist. I don't see it being a radio wave
But by
because
the
I
time
can't
you
see it being
hear
a
it,
radio
it's
wave.
already in the past.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everything changes states. A cup of coffee. Okay, you take a cup of coffee. Now, that cup of coffee will change states if it goes, if it's in a room with freezing cold, it will start to freeze. It changes states. If it's too hot, it will change into a gas. Everything changes states. It's only us which interpret at that precise time. And that's part of the problem with us understanding and not being able to verify people's subjective experiences, because that person listening to a radio station, we will understand that it's, well, hang on a minute, it's being transmitted from the radio station, but no, I heard it, it came through it was in my head and I don't know how it got there. You know, if it was 200-300 years ago, they'd be like, it's magic, it's some kind of wizardry, I can hear music, you know. Well, actually, no, there is I think it would be. I get what you mean. I get what you mean, but I think it is like everything else. It boils down to that individual at that time witnessing um, uh, the result of the music, and the result of the music is the music coming out the speaker, because I can't see the frequency it's traveling along.
Well, there's two things with regard to that. One, music is a product of time. It does not exist if you have no concept of the past or the future. When you hear music, you're hearing the note that you're hearing at that instant. But you also remember the note that just played, and you're anticipating the next note in the song. That's what creates melody. Without it, it's just a series of noises strung together. It is your mind that creates the melody. It doesn't exist outside of your mind. The mind has to interpret it that way. Secondly, anything that you hear or see, for that matter, is delayed. It takes time for it to enter your eyes, your ears, your nose if you're smelling something, or the touch of your fingers, and is microseconds before it can get up to your brain, and your brain interprets it and creates a picture in your mind that isn't necessarily reality as it really is. It's your brain's construction of reality. You're not seeing reality, you're seeing what your mind has created for you that is reality. And also, because the human brain always is getting delayed information constantly in a stream, we don't exist in the real now. There is no now. We actually, all of our senses are a microsecond in the past. That you're hearing me right now. You think you're hearing me right now. No, you actually heard me a microsecond ago. It took that long for your brain to interpret it and then hear it as me talking. So it really is a product of time. And if there is no now that we can all agree on, then time may just be a construct of the human mind and may not be real in the sense that we think it's linear and unbreakable at all.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So I always thought that it was only the now which existed. There was no future because we're actually moving along a frame of film into, you know, we're
That's
always
how
going.
we perceive it. That's how we
Yeah.
perceive it. But right now, physicists are beginning to say, no, there is no common now. Einstein even came up with a long time ago. If you had a telescope and you're looking at a planet, oh, say 1,000 light years away, and you're looking at that planet with a really powerful telescope, and you see an alien looking through a telescope back at us, your now shows you an alien looking at you through that telescope. That alien doesn't see you. He's seeing Earth as it was 1,000 years in his past, and you're seeing him from 1,000 years ago. So where's the now? Where's the commonality there? So now, according to Einstein, doesn't really exist. It is merely a situation of relativity. You relatively think that you're here in the now right now, but it's not that way. And if time is so fluid, so flexible, it may not exist at all. They're thinking now. In fact, uh, time and entropy may be a consequence of gravity or the reverse. They just don't know, believe it or not. But that is one theory.
I always thought that time and gravity went hand in hand. So, time will slow up around a large body, a large
Right.
planet. The effect of inertia will time will speed up if there is no large body to actually pull the gravity well in. So I always thought time and gravity are two of the same.
They are linked. They are linked in that sense. For instance, if you're in a really tall skyscraper that went from the Earth into outer space, if you lived on the bottom of it, you're moving at a different time rate than the people living at the top of that same building.
Mm.
And also, because of that lag, they're saying that's what gravity might be, the lag in time differentials, which is another strange concept. It's bordering on the edge for me to try to understand. But yeah, they're saying that too. So we don't really know what time is. We do know it seems to have a certain function, but we also know that it's entirely relative. And no matter how fast you go, the speed of light is always 186,000 miles per second, whether you're walking on a motorcycle or traveling in a spacecraft to another planet. From your perspective on board that ship, time is still traveling at 186,000 miles a second, no matter how fast you happen to be going at that time. So it's all very relative. For people back on Earth, no, you're going through time dilation. They see it clearly, but for you on the ship, time is quite normal. Nothing's changed. And so again, the whole idea of time being sort of a monolithic thing that can't be changed, tampered with, or destroyed doesn't seem to be true at all anymore. On the quantum level, we know that cause and effect can be reversed. You can have an effect and then go back and change the cause, and it'll change the effect after the fact. It's called quantum erasure, and
Yeah,
it's
but that's you can do that, but you see that will be if you change an effect by going back in time, you will
mhm.
change it for that timeline, not for the timeline you left to go on to change that initial timeline. Do you see what I mean? If I if
That's
I if I
assuming
jump
that
onto
you're thinking multiverse, multiple timelines, and we're creating it every time we change something in our past.
yeah,
We're getting into the Mandela effect here, aren't we?
well, the grandfather paradox, wasn't it? The grandfather paradox. But just to, I wanted just to ask you one thing, and that is, if reality is not real, and we might be living in a simulation, what do scientists suggest? What scientists suggest might be the source of the interference pattern found during quantum computer experiments?
They think it might be some of them. There's no one consensus, but a lot of them. I believe they believe it's the Copenhagen theory they believe in, and they believe that it's multiple timelines, and that the reason you're seeing these differential wave patterns when they do that basic split screen experiment is because we're getting interference from other timelines where they're also running the same experiment at the exact same time under the same conditions. That these parallel universes are very, very close in their nature and behavior. And maybe the only difference may be that an atom split in one that didn't split in the other, or a molecule degraded in one that didn't degrade in the other, and that caused a split in the timeline. But we don't have any empirical evidence to support that idea, but it does seem to hold water because it does explain a lot of things. So if you do go back and kill your grandfather and you come back to the present, your grandfather's still dead. You simply created another timeline where the grandfather didn't
Yeah,
die and where you weren't,
yeah,
or
yeah.
you.
That's it.
So either way, I mean, whether you killed him or didn't kill him, that creates a
Mm,
split. And you have one universe where you weren't born and one where you were. But you
yeah,
don't know that because you come back to the same one you left.
yeah. By the way, on YouTube speak, it's called unalived, not the other word, because otherwise YouTube go, oh no, he said the killed word. So I
I've
said it now.
noticed that lately, and they're
Oh,
using another expression for
oh,
when
you even
people
got
are
me at it
being
now. You got me at it. I
yeah
said that word now.
unalived. I don't
No,
know.
no, I
It
said the
sounds a
K.
bit
I
like
said the K word. I said the K word.
oh the and that really stops it even in a video. Really
No, it won't stop the video, but it'll just kind of like, you know,
flag it.
they don't like it. They don't like it.
Well, I
People,
know you're not supposed to use weapons that shoot anymore. You're supposed to say there's one guy on YouTube that uses pew pew. The guy uh, pew pewed him and he was unalived. I mean, don't you find that a little ridiculous?
yeah,
Really? Yeah. It's
it.
their algorithms. The algorithms can find this stuff. They just can't determine
Oh, they're brilliant. They're
context.
fantastic. They're great for the job that they do. I mean, don't put too much faith in AI, please. You know, anyone listening to this, don't put too much faith in AI, because AI essentially, you know, you ask it something and it will just use the mass load of database, which is the internet, as its reference guide, and then it finds it's very efficient and good at finding patterns, and it will put those patterns together using, it's like when people say, oh, and they put it onto AI, is this blob a UFO? What it will do is it will create a UFO because you've asked if it's a UFO, and also it will see it's in space, it will see it's in the sky, and it will use the vast database of tinfoil hat wearers taking photographs of other blobs which look like a UFO and cough up a UFO when it actually isn't. So AI is great, but it is a tool which essentially at the moment has to use a database which is us, and we're infallible. We're fallible, not infallible, fallible. So you know we do make a lot of mistakes as a race, as everyone knows. When you talk about quantum, I'm going to bring this book up. People can read a lot about the your ideas on quantum, the quantum realm. Oh, hypersoul. What's that about? Hypersoul.
Oh, it's about hyper souls. I'm sorry. It's actually
I've
about the idea
not
that.
heard of that before.
Well, if you no, I coined the term. I've heard of super soul. Oprah Winfrey came up with that, but I came up with hyper soul. And the idea is that if our brains are receivers and we're just receiving a collective quantum consciousness in our brains to the extent that our brains can receive them, you can't expect a radio that's got a 3-inch speaker to sound like a radio that has subwoofers. So it depends on the brain and how well you receive. But that means that there may be a hypersoul, and what we're just experiencing in any reality is a part of that hypersoul. If you can think of the soul like a diamond with many facets, the facet that you have right now in this world, in this reality, is just one facet of a much greater diamond. So
Hmm.
your hypersoul is not just you, it's all of the yous that exist in all the realities. They're cross-linked. That's the hyper you, the hypersoul.
Got you. Okay. What do you think with people? I mean, there is some work being done on schizophrenia, when they say, look, because I knew a schizophrenic guy who was part of the my previous life. I was like kind of had kids and was with Mrs. and her brother was schizophrenic, and he had a habit of it scared the crap out of me, to be honest. I would like pick him up in the car, yeah, fully grown bloke, really big guy as well, you know, and pick him up in the car, and he'd be in the back. He'd want to sit in the back for some reason anyway. He'd want to sit in the back, which scared me even more because he's behind me. And then he would start having a full-on conversation. Now, he wouldn't reply on behalf of the person he was talking to. That person didn't reply. It wasn't a case of like, oh, what do you think of Rob? Well, to be honest with you, I think he's very brainy. No, do you? Yeah, I do. And do you think he's like, it wouldn't be like that. He wouldn't be almost like a ventriloquist. He wouldn't be doing like that. But he would be one-sided, be talking, but talking in a way that, you can imagine there's a voice actually responding to him.
So it sounds like someone who's on the phone with someone, and you're only hearing half the conversation.
Yeah, for sure. And it was really quite scary, especially when he started laughing. This voice said something funny to him, and he started shrieks of laughter. And I was driving along, looking in the rearview mirror, thinking, what the hell is he saying? He could be saying, you want to unalive that guy in front, I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be a little creepy. Yeah, it really would be. They don't know what causes it either. Why they hear voices, but they do. I knew a gentleman that had the same problem, and I really quizzed him about it. I said, "So you hear voices?" He said, "Yes, I do." And I said, "Where do you hear them? In your head?" He goes, "No, I hear them when I'm playing songs on my cassette." So that dates this cassette tapes. I said, "You hear voices talking to you when you're listening to your music, and it's not the musicians' voices?" "No, it's them giving me messages." I said, "And they're on your own personal tapes that you recorded?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well, how do they get on there?" He says, "I think they sneak into my house when I'm not home and record it on my music."
Yeah.
Which at that point I decided to stop asking questions. But I mean, he thought that really was the case.
Well, do you know one of my all-time, got a couple of heroes, but one of my heroes is Carl Jung, right? Carl Jung, or Jung.
Oh, you mean the psychiatrist that was a contemporary of Freud, right?
Yeah. He used to hear voices. He
Yes,
voices.
he believed in the collective subconscious too, didn't he?
Yeah.
Archetypal images from your dreams. We all dream of water, and it means virility or sexual desire. Like, so if you dream of a tsunami, apparently you got sexual problems in your life or whatever. But but that seems to be an archetypal figure, and he says it comes from the collective subconscious. And he says that new archetypes are being added on a regular basis. And I believe him because I used to have nightmares about atomic bombs going off, and other people did too. So that he thinks that's a current archetypal image that has filtered through to the collective subconscious.
Yeah, he called his innate. Jung described experiencing an inner voice throughout his life, which he called Philemon, Philemon, Philemon. He saw Philemon as well as a distinct, because he used to see visions as well. He had visions, but he saw Philemon as a direct entity with his psyche, a voice that was not his own, but that had its own thoughts and life. So almost like a tulpa or an egregore. Well, no, an egregore was created by a group, but a tulpa. Jung's perspective on hearing voices differed from a purely clinical view. While he acknowledged the voices could be a symptom of psychosis, he also believed that it could be a normal part of human experience, particularly during periods of heightened awareness or introspection. So that was quite, an interesting thing to read about him.
It also cuts back to that split screen thing, that the outcome is determined by the observer, and then in the quantum realm. And in that case, if the outcome is determined by the observer, is the observer himself also being observed. A lot of people don't, not a lot of people, but some people don't seem to have an inner voice, that they actually don't seem to have that little voice inside their head telling them they should do this or they should do that, or they said they don't have that. It's very rare, but apparently some people actually don't have it. But when you're thinking a thought, the thought isn't the thinker, it's the result of the thinker. So who's the thinker of those thoughts?
Mm, makes
You're
sense.
having all these thoughts in your head. Who's the thinker of those thoughts? You're not the thoughts. You must be the thinker of those thoughts, right?
Um, yeah, but then it goes on to, you know, the creativity aspect. You write books, don't you? So those books
Yes.
you've written are not your books then. Is that right?
They, well, there are some, well, now you're getting into it again. There are some authors and writers who insist, absolutely insist, that they didn't write the book, that it was ghost written, and not in the sense that they wrote it for someone else and
Mm,
didn't use their name, but that they were automatic writing, that they were just sitting there and it was basically controlling them. And I have had a couple experiences where I've written stuff. And then when I finished writing like 3 or 4 pages, I look at it and go, that's not what I intended to write at all. And I had to completely wipe it out and start fresh. It's like
mm.
my mind just went off and did its own thing.
This has
Um,
happened with music as well, isn't it? It's happened with people that have written music, like Bob Dylan.
Absolutely. And he was truly a genius.
Yeah.
I don't think he sang very well, but boy, could he write music, you know.
Mm,
He
mm.
sort of sounded like a rusty drain pipe when he sang, you know. But I mean, he was passable in the sense if you, but he definitely had a unique voice, and it definitely came across in his music. But I loved his music, and so many of the songs by other artists were actually written by him. I mean, he was quite
Yeah.
incredible. And yes, he claimed that he wasn't always the one writing the music. So who is? Who is the thinker of the thoughts?
Mm. Interesting, isn't it? It is interesting.
And do they reside in your head, or are they out there in the zonking through the atmospheric continuum or whatever? You know.
Personally, I believe that our brains are our brains. Think, no, like you pointed out, they're receivers, but our consciousness is a hive consciousness. It's all around us. It's and it's something which we all can tap into if we're able to. We're all able to tap into this consciousness, but that's why I always say, you know, there's been episodes where people in, you know, with comas, when they've been in a deep coma and they've like they're basically clinically brain unalived, um and isn't it terrible? So you're the same generation as me, aren't you? You know, and
Yes,
it's
I
like
am.
kind of, if someone turned around and, you know, 20 years ago and said that, I'd be like, what are you on about, unalived? Come on, just say it as you see it. Say it as you see it. Um anyway,
They're euphemisms, you know. It's like saying, "Well, the person passed, or they've gone to a better place." Yeah,
yeah.
6 feet under, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
But I mean, it sounds nice to say past, doesn't it? And we've used euphemisms like that for
yeah,
centuries. It's just we don't
yeah.
like facing reality, so we soften it for ourselves. And I think that's what the YouTube's doing. Do you remember when YouTube used to be a wild and woolly place like the old West, and now it's
Oh, it's
so
brilliant.
controlled and rule bound? It's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
remember when the internet was 56K dial-up, it took like half a day to get any kind of like photo download. It used to come down on lines, individual lines used to work their way down, drawing the picture you wanted to see. Um, but back then, the
yes.
internet was it was a soapbox for people to go on and be absolutely honest and uncensored. It was lovely, lovely place.
Yeah, and now we don't have that anymore, and it's becoming more and more restricted. And it reminds me so much of 1984, George Orwell's 1984 in Newspeak. You don't say something is good or bad. You say something is good or ungood. What's the difference? Ungood doesn't mean imply that it's evil or bad. It just means it's not good. So it's
Mm,
basically neutral. Whereas if you say bad, it means just the opposite of good, and it's something, for want of a better word, evil. But with Newspeak, they were trying to take all that out of the language. So, and it almost seems like that's what YouTube is trying to do now. Not on purpose. I think it's the algorithms doing it, but same thing. People get
I hope,
demonetized.
I tell you what, Rob. I hope it's a yeah, exactly, monetized. I hope it's a case of them. If they don't like certain words said because it's I believe it's because it stems from commercialization. It wants to hit the widest possible audience. It doesn't want to
Of
be,
course.
because they make money by doing adverts. So if you have
I'm not
something
so
on it,
sure if it's the largest possible. I think it's more like the lowest common denominator, a bit like television, like the
yeah,
one
yeah,
critic that referred to television as a vast desert wasteland. It could have been
mm,
everything. It could have been ballets, symphonies, Shakespeare. It could have been, but it's not,
mm,
is it? It's
no,
some of the worst sitcoms you've ever seen in your life, but that's what people want to watch. That's
mm.
what they show. YouTube's the same way, I think.
Yeah, yeah, YouTube's the same way, and it's the same. I think with the internet as well. The internet is just devoid. It's devoid, really, of content. It's been proven. So, if you go searching, I don't know, cats on chairs, and you search cats on chairs, and it will come up with 2.5 million pages. But you go to the 2.5 millionth page, and there'll be nothing there. It'll be an error code. It'll be nothing. It says there's loads of content, but actually there is no content there. There's only maybe the first 4 or 5 pages of links. But it's
That
kind of
brings up an interesting question. If you Google yourself and nothing comes up, do you exist?
well, yeah. I mean,
It's
that's
a
that's
joke.
the thing.
I Google
Yeah,
myself all the time. I can't help it. I want to see how I'm doing. The more links that come up, and you feel, oh, I'm real popular right now or not. It's a bit like
yeah,
Facebook, where everyone wanted the most friends on Facebook.
yeah.
Same sort of thing. But yeah,
Yeah,
what
I
what
think the time when I make it is when I'm on Wikipedia, and those the censors on Wikipedia can alter my whole profile, about my whole history, and everything else can be altered, and hopefully they'll make me interesting.
I think we make ourselves interesting. You are on what you're on because you're interested in a lot of things, and people are interested in what you have to say. If you weren't an interesting person, no one would be paying attention to you. You're
Yeah.
also obviously also a very learned person as well. So,
Well,
I
thank
mean,
you for that. So you, Rob. Honestly, that's what. But yeah, my mother would agree with you. She often watches me. Sometimes she does switch off, but a lot of
my
times she
mother
does.
agrees with me, but she's dead.
Uh,
Oh, I'm sorry, she's unalived. She's unalived.
yes. Moving swiftly on, Rob. I've got another book to bring up. Ancient Alien Empire. Right. Ancient Aliens. Okay, I've seen the series, not all of it. I found a bit of it, kind of going on a bit. But yeah. So megalithia. What's the angle?
This was based on the idea of a lot of research that I had done about 10 years ago, and I think it's still valid. It doesn't seem to have changed much. In fact, there seems to be more evidence to corroborate it. But it's the idea that there once was a worldwide civilization, megalithic in nature. And by megalithic, I mean using the big, heavy stone monuments, whether it's pyramids or the platform at Baalbek or the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, or whether it's Stonehenge. But this is all around the world, Easter Island, the monoliths. And it was all at the same time, and it all stopped suddenly. And my book was based on the idea that something big happened that destroyed that civilization, and it was a human civilization about up to about 12,000, maybe 15,000 years ago, and something destroyed it. And if you look at the Vedic texts of the Indians, of India, I mean, and if you look at the Sumerian text with regard to the Anunnaki, they both say that there were like gods, translated possible creatures from outer space that had that kind of power because they were so far advanced, and that they had a war. The Vedic texts talk about a great war that involved hundreds of different species, not only on Earth but in space. It even talks about a time when a Vimana went from the Earth to the Moon to fight in a battle on the Moon's surface. How the ancient Indians knew that the Moon had a surface or was even a planet like the Earth, I don't know, because until modern times, a lot of people didn't think the Moon was anything like the Earth and was just something that God had placed in the sky. So that's pretty incredible that long ago they did this. And It's not just them, but other cultures. And it seems to coincide with a time when we may not have had a moon. Because the records also show, written records, by the way, refer to a time when there was no moon. Um, I believe it was Aristarchus, it might have been Aristotle, I get the two confused sometimes, said that in ancient Greece, before the modern Greek of his time were there was another race called the Proselynes, which really means before there was a moon. The Romans referred to a time before there was a moon. In the New World, various tribes in Central and South America and even parts of North America referred to there not being a moon. They would talk about way back in the past before there was a moon. Not before there was a Venus or before there was a Mars, or even before there was a sun, before there was a moon. And they all seem to date back to about the same time. Plus, we don't have any pictures or maps or drawings of the moon from very early times. We have it from the Middle Ages and a few in the Roman and Greek times, but nothing as far back as the caveman days. The closest thing we have is a crescent shape on one cave painting that seems to depict the moon. Why wouldn't the moon have been more prominent in cave paintings? The sun, the stars, everything else was. Why were there no moon pictures back in the cave days, unless you count that one crescent moon?
No, it is. It's the moon is. I forget which. There was somebody famous that said it's not unusual that the moon isn't there. It's unusual that the moon is there.
Yeah, I told you that the other day, actually. I believe it was a scientist by the name of McDonald. I know he worked for NASA. I'm not sure it was McDonald. He worked for NASA. And he said it's far easier to prove the moon doesn't exist than to prove it does exist because it's so strange and such an oddity.
Yeah. It's and it's strange to note that when a asteroid has an impact, the impact craters have all been measured to a certain depth. I can't remember what the depth is now, but they seem to go yay deep, but no deeper. Almost like it's got a hard shell on it.
If it's a small crater, they can go quite deep, comparatively speaking, but not 20 miles. If it's a large crater, no. It seems to have turned it into molten right on the surface. And two Soviet scientists from the Academy of Sciences in the 1970s came up with the spaceship moon theory. They said the reason that that there's an inner shell possibly about 20 to 25 miles down that's like titanium or made of some very dense material, and that aliens live inside of it, and that the moon has been basically hollowed out, and that explains the dark maria facing the Earth on our side of the moon, and that is lava that was pumped out of the center so that they could create a space inside that was safe. That's one theory, and another theory is that, well, actually, that's the main theory of the hollow spaceship moon theory, I think. And there's other evidence. I can't talk. Sorry. There is evidence to support that idea that the moon may be hollow. The first three layers of the moon's surface are in reverse order. The densest material should be on the bottom, and it's reversed. So we can't figure that out either. But this goes on and on and on. Is the moon hollow? I don't know. Could it be? Yeah, it could be. Or it could be that it has large caverns, at least on the inside of it.
Yeah. No, it is a fascinating satellite indeed. It's and it's very, very unusual from the point of view of, as you say, I think it's also Sumerian text didn't speak of the moon either, did they? I'm sure it is Sumerian.
Gosh, I don't know if it did or not. To be honest with you, I wasn't focused on that at the time.
I don't believe they mentioned anything about the moon, because the Sumerians were fastidious when it came to documenting. But like a lot of civilizations, their documentation was in the form not of so much written word; it was a more graphical depiction of life in everyday. Their culture was depicted in symbolism, but
they used cuneiform, didn't they? The writing was cuneiform.
Yeah, that's right.
The Egyptian writing was pictographs. That was hieroglyphics.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And but yeah, I'm sure it was the Sumerians. I read somewhere that also, like you say, didn't mention the moon until much later, in a latter part of their civilization. So yeah, I think I agree with you. You know, I think you know, when it comes to lines of energy, and I think it could well be maybe inside the moon, like a torsion field, which gives it its its gravity, small amount of gravity, but gravity, and keeps it in place, a bit like a spinning top, if you like, but it's not spinning, you know, but inside it would be, you know.
Mm.
But that's just my own theory on it. So
I don't know if it's really hollow or not, but I mean, when you look at the moon, it's not as dense as the Earth. It's supposed to have come from Earth material, the mantle mostly, but
mm,
it's not the same density. It's about not quite a little over half the density of the of Earth's density. In fact, it's so light it could almost float in water. For its size, it just doesn't have enough mass. We can't figure out where the mass went.
yeah,
Also, when you hit the moon with something, it rings, and it can ring for hours, so to speak,
mm,
echoes, vibrations. Now everything vibrates. You hit a rock, it'll vibrate slightly for about a second or less.
mm,
But the moon can do it for hours, which suggested that it might have a hollow interior. Also, seismographs left on the moon show waves passing through the moon, but not through the core. So one
mm.
scientist at NASA said either the moon's core is made of a material we're not aware of that seems to dampen out those seismic waves, or there is no core. So we won't know more until we actually get there and do more exploration, but something's odd.
And there was a piece of the moon that was brought back by Apollo missions, and some rock samples. And didn't they find there was a radioactive element only found as a byproduct of fusion on the moon?
I think you're referring to the fact that on the moon there's helium-3 in abundance.
Yeah.
Helium-3 would be a terrific fuel for fusion reactors. We have it here on Earth, but it's not abundant. We have to basically mine it from seawater to get it, like heavy water, whatever. You have to keep doing it. It's just incredibly difficult thing to do. But the moon seems to have a lot of helium-3, and also another oddity is there is a crater on the moon that's quite large, named for Aristarchus, the Greek scientist, and scientists refer to it as the blue gem because it glows blue so often. Now, someone actually did a spectral analysis on that blue glow, and they said it's exactly the same spectrum that you would get from a fusion reactor. A lot of it is Cherenkov radiation, which is a harmless blue glowing radiation that doesn't damage you. It's just more visual than anything. But yeah, so we have that going about the moon. Also, the moon's orbit's too circular, too perfect. Also, it's
Yeah.
the only moon in the entire solar system, and there are hundreds of moons in the solar system, that actually gives Earth a total eclipse, or no other planet has it. Their moons simply aren't close enough or far enough away or big enough to completely black out the sun, so the other planets don't get a total eclipse like we do.
Mm.
Oh, their moons pass in front of the sun, but not at the right distance to completely block the moon out. The vernal equinoxes, the solstices, the moon has those just like the sun does for us.
Mm.
It rises and sets at certain times of the year in those
Mm.
places. So you can determine our calendar by the moon as well as by the sun. Uh, that's strange. We can't quite figure out why that's so. And also, beacons have been seen on the moon, flashes,
Yeah. Yeah.
tracks,
Yeah.
all sorts of stuff. Transient lunar phenomena, it's called.
Well, I mean, I always thought when I was growing up, one of my favorite TV series was Space 1999, where they had a moon
I
base.
liked it.
Yeah,
I liked
I
it.
like that series.
Yeah.
That was quite cool. And the moon, I don't get it why we haven't been back and we haven't created a space station, because logically, from my point of view, it would negate any need to have excess fuel to try and thrust up a rocket from Earth. Takes an excessive amount of fuel to get through the gravity barrier on Earth, if they were to fire something, they wanted to hit Mars, and they launched from the moon. One, they have fuel, like you say, they have helium-3, but also they have thorium and uranium on the moon, which
They
can
have
be used.
Neptunium as well, which they shouldn't have.
Yeah,
Neptunium shouldn't exist on the moon. It has a
no,
half-life of a little over 2 million years, and it should all be gone. It is on
yeah,
Earth.
exactly
And if the
right.
moon's made from our mantle, why do they still have Neptunium
Mm.
on the moon?
But Rob, don't you find it strange that they haven't got, because I mean, it would be so much for interstellar travel. There wouldn't be hardly any gravity to enable them to carry mass loads of fuel, and it would be a great staging post for any interplanetary travel. But it's a strange we haven't been back.
And militarily, it's the high ground, which also supports the idea of aliens being on the moon or having been on the moon in the past. What place on Earth is completely controlled by the moon? Every place if you're on the moon. You observe everything, you see everything, and you can respond to everything on the Earth. I mean,
Mm.
sooner or later, the whole Earth rotates in front of you, and you can do it. Um, yeah, it is strange, and I can't. If the moon isn't hollow or it doesn't have caverns and there never was anything on the moon and it was always a dead world, it's a very strange world and we simply can't account for it. We don't even know how it got here. We think that a planet the size of Mars, Theia, crashed into the Earth in the protoplanet stage. But there are so many problems with that theory. All major six theories of the moon's formation all have major flaws that we simply can't figure out how it could be. If the moon is made from the Earth's mantle primarily, then why doesn't it have all exactly the same amounts of the same materials in it? If the moon is made from two planets like Theia and the Earth, why does it only have the isotopic signature that's similar to Earth's but no Theia? Surely, if you
Yeah.
smash one planet into another, you're going to get a lot of debris flying everywhere. And some of it's going to form the moon along with material from the Earth. But we haven't found any. They think they might find it later. But yeah, we might find angels later. Maybe, maybe not. But, I'm not holding my breath for that. I'll believe it when I see it, kind of thing. So, yeah, it's the moon's a mystery. It's an enigma.
Yeah, no, it truly is. It is a mystery. And what's the best place they can find for any reference material on the moon from yourself?
Actually, on Amazon probably, or Smashwords, or they can just Google it. Just Google my name and something about the moon, and all my books will come up. I've got 6 or 7 books about the moon.
Okay, yeah.
There you go. You've just pulled them up. Yeah.
Okay, right. So yeah, we've got this one. And yeah, for the moon is hollow and aliens rule the sky. Okay.
And it's basically based on what we were just talking about for the last 15 minutes or so. By the way, it was a bestseller. It was number one, for its genre. It was number one on Kindle for quite a while on Amazon.
Okay, and if people
It bought me a new car.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And if people
So whether the moon's hollow or not, I don't care. I got a new car.
That's all right. The moon works. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I really think there's something to the hollow moon idea. To some degree, there has to be.
Oh yeah. And if people want more information, they can also find it here on his blog spot. It's actually a really good blog spot. I don't know why that didn't come up. Let's have a look. Got new releases. Let's have a look at your
Oh,
new
I'm afraid it's outdated. I've stopped really updating it so much. Amazon and Smashwords and all the others keep your books updated. So I don't know what the traffic is on my website, but I really go with Amazon Kindle for everything. And if anyone goes to Amazon Kindle and types in my name, all this stuff comes up.
Okay, right, excellent. All right then, brilliant. Right, we have also got, you've given me another Appalachian mystery, isn't it? Appalachian Mountains. I've heard a lot of things about the Appalachians. I've never been there, but I've heard a lot of creepy stuff.
They're very
Right.
old. They go from Maine all the way down to the tip of Florida, or actually South Carolina more than anything, a little bit into Georgia too. And it's about 2,500 miles in length if you want to walk the trail. A bit different than in England, isn't it? The distances
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah, for sure.
But they're very old mountains. They're the oldest in North America. They date back about 1 billion years, or darn close to it, well over 500 million years anyway. And so they have a lot of flora and fauna that date back a long ways. So the Appalachians are known for cryptids, but also some very strange things that have been happening there. The native indigenous peoples, the Cherokee primarily, have a lot of legends about the Appalachians, and one of those legends refers to the moon people that they used to have to fight with. And the moon people had very large eyes and wouldn't come out in the daytime. They lived in caves, but they couldn't take the light. That's why they called them the moon people, because the shape of their eyes, and they only came out at night. But those legends of the moon people persist, also of Sasquatch, Bigfoot, the Dogman. All sorts of cryptids supposedly abound in the Appalachians. But the big deal with this book is that whole settlements have disappeared, some 17 or thereabouts in total over the last couple of centuries, and some under very strange and bizarre circumstances.
Hmm. What villages, whole townships, or villages, or?
Yes, well, I would say villages because they call them towns, and one was even called a city. But with a population of 170 or 200 people, it's a village. But there was one case. A man had spent some time in a village or town, and he went back to it later, or thought he couldn't find it. And he had a postcard from it, and so he went to the police and he said, "I can't find my way to this town. What?" And they said, "No, that town doesn't exist. It never existed. Never happened. It's not in any of our records." He said, "Yeah, it is." He says, "I met a waitress there. I ate there. I spent a night at a hotel there. It's not a big town, but it apparently had a boarding house or something." And so they did some research, and they found that a town by that name apparently had been in the county records, but the county records stopped. But there was a school there, and further research showed a man who died who was from that town, and it was in another town's newspaper, his obituary. So the town apparently existed and then stopped existing. And now no one except a few older people have a memory of the town ever having been there. And apparently it disappeared in one night. And the people in it, they abandoned the town and they never came back. And even the town is gone. Even the foundations of the town are gone. Other sites, same sort of thing sort of happened. And the government has stepped in some of them and restricted them and put up monitors. So to me, this is incredible. And of course, the information on these places is very minimal. It was very hard to track some of this stuff down. You had to go to different counties in West Virginia. Good luck with that. And then you had to go in Kentucky, and you had to go in Tennessee, and here in North Carolina. And you had to look up. You had to get corroborating evidence because there was so little on the face of it. But you're vaping, aren't you?
Sorry?
You're vaping, aren't you?
I am, yeah. I'm naughty.
Yeah. Yes, you are. It's not good for you. You'd be better off smoking than vaping, they're saying. You do know that.
Oh, no. Oh,
the chemicals they say are very bad.
Oh, they do bang on about that. I know. Yeah. But the one thing which that I've noticed after being an ex-smoker, the one thing I did notice is when I was smoking cigarettes, the tar, it did make an impact on the
the tar is very bad for your lungs.
Whereas this, it's kind of it's none of it.
But the chemicals they infuse us with and the flavors they say can really be hard on your lungs. I don't know. I don't smoke, but that's why I can nag anybody who does. I have the high ground here.
I know. Don't you love it as well?
I do. Yeah, makes me feel so superior.
Everyone's got their hang up, Rob. Just got to find yours.
I don't smoke.
We've got over here. We've got some interesting cases along the same lines of houses that have disappeared. So there's one case called the Jean Batram case. Her name is spelled Jean Batram case. And it goes as this, I quote, on a cool but sunny Sunday afternoon in February 2007, Jean Batram and her husband, Sydney, better known as Johnny, a retired couple living in Great Barton, decided to go for a drive around some of the picturesque local villages. This is in Suffolk. They headed south east towards Ruffham, and Jean had never visited before, where Jean had never visited before, and drove south down Kingshall Street. They had just passed the two bungalows opposite Colville Grove when Jean spotted on her left a large Georgian house. It lay across a newly harrowed field in front of some woods. She pointed it out to Johnny, who glanced over briefly and said that as it was such a lovely house, she would take a closer look at it on the way back. After a pleasant drive, they returned along the same route, but there was no house to be seen. Jean was puzzled and asked Johnny if he was certain they had come out on the same road. Of course he was certain. It is the only road running south from Ruffham. Jean became increasingly worried over the coming weeks. She felt that she should report the incident to somebody, but Johnny disagreed vehemently. He declared that he had no wish to be subjected to ridicule and would deny that he had even seen the house himself. For 8 months, Jean agonized over the matter. Then, during a phone call to a friend of hers, the friend's name I'll use Powell, she admitted that she had seen something very strange and didn't know what to do. To her surprise, her friend Powell replied, "Oh, you haven't seen the ghost house, have you?" Jean had no idea that others had witnessed the same phenomenon. So we often get this, and it's not just goes for houses either. It goes for people and places. In 2006, a petty thief named Sean was chased down Hanover Street in London by a security guard. He made a mistake of running into Brooks Alley, a dead end. Sean felt a sensation of tightness in his chest as he waited for the guard to enter the alley, but the guard did not appear, and Sean ventured back into Hanover Street. But things had changed. Clothing, styles, background details, the cars were all old-fashioned. Sean couldn't get a signal on his mobile phone. He realized that he was in a past time and began to panic. He ran back to the alley, then walked to a news kiosk near Central Station and looked at the front page of the Daily Post. It was dated 18th of May, 1967. He hurried up the road and suddenly his mobile regained signal. Now he was back in familiar surroundings. But at the other end of Ranelagh Street, the people were still in 1967. Tom Sleeman interviewed Sean 4 times and he stuck to his story. The guard who had chased him into the alley said he had literally vanished into thin air. Odd.
Now that's like a time slip to me. And you've had others of those in England too. On Bold Street in Liverpool, several times. That's almost exactly the same things happen. But what's happening in the mountains is not the same. Most of these towns existed because of coal mines that were being dug there back in the last century and this century. And in one case, they started hearing voices deeper in the mine. And the workers, it began to scare the workers. They said it was a kind of a singing, chanting, weird voice, not voice, but voices, calling them by name. Then a whole shift of mine workers went down, and at the end of their shift, it never came back up, vanished. So they sent down searchers for them. The searchers vanished as well, never came back up. Then people in the town started vanishing, literally disappearing. One school teacher said that she had 17 children in her classroom, and they became translucent in front of her and then disappeared entirely. This scared the rest of the people because that town had a little over 200 people in it, and a lot of them began to flee and run. And people said that people would step outside their house, and that would be it. They'd be gone. When about 1/3 of the population had disappeared, the rest of the population panicked and fled the area. That's one town. And then, even though they were hundreds of miles away, settled in other states, they said that they would have synchronized dreams with other people from the same town about these voices calling to them. And one sheriff of one town, and actually the same town, said that even after the people disappeared, he could hear their voices inside the plumbing and pipes of his houses. Another town, children were playing by a creek. A black substance appeared in the creek like tar, all of a sudden oozing up out of the very base of this creek. And people would walk into the creek as if in a trance and disappear below the water. The creek was only 3 feet deep. The 17 children disappeared, and apparently the government stepped in, and the government uses the expression translocation being a problem in some of these areas. And that's all they say, translocation. They don't say how, what, or why. But quite often these voices in the mines are heard in more than one location. Voices are heard in the plumbing. It seems to have something to do with water, like creeks. And these areas often were no-go areas for the native peoples, like the Cherokee. They wouldn't even hunt or fish anywhere within 5 miles of some of these areas, and never had. They were so-called sacred places. But now you have to remember, for the Native Americans, the term sacred wasn't sacred like a church sacred. They just meant that it was a special place that you weren't supposed to trespass on for whatever reason, whether good or bad. So, but this has happened like some 17 times. And since the Appalachians are so big, it's happened in Kentucky, in Tennessee, in North Carolina, West Virginia, and even, I think, part of Virginia. So it's a very strange phenomenon. And since I don't live too far away from them, I won't even go camping up there anymore. I won't even go into the mountains to go to the Cherokee Park or to the Blue Ridge Parkway or to Dollywood, or any of those places. I'll go there, but I won't walk out in the woods alone. And they say you should never camp in the Appalachians alone.
Really?
Mm-hmm. People do, and people disappear.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, it's odd you saying that they could hear, I'd heard that somewhere, that they could hear the children through the plumbing.
Not just children, but other people that had vanished. But yes, the children too. Yeah. Singing in the pipes is the way he described it. And you know what he did? He left. This was the sheriff of this little town. He left.
What?
He'd had enough and fled. Yeah. And then the government, I don't know whether it was state or federal, stepped in, tore up the road to the town, destroyed the town, even the foundations. You can still find the graveyard. There is a graveyard to the town that is still there. And oddly enough, most of the people buried in that grave, the date is the same date in the late 1800s, as if they all, some 17, 18, 19 people, I can't remember the exact number, all have the same date that they died supposedly in this town. Whether they're really buried there, they don't know, or whether the tombstones were just monuments and they're not really buried there. We don't know, but no one's dug them up. But yeah, this stuff goes on a lot.
I don't expect you to know. I don't. But what is it with places like? I mean, it's a vast area, but what is it, do you think, with places like the Appalachians, which propagate so much I don't know, strange happenings and cryptid sightings? It's almost like you get these places dotted around in different countries where it's almost like it's a boiling pot. It's a zonal kind of hotbed of activity bubbling up. Why is that? Why do you think it is?
Well, rational people would say it's because these are very difficult areas. They've never been heavily populated. There's no doubt the Appalachians are very difficult. If you ever watch the movie Coal Miner's Daughter, she comes from a place called Butcher Holler. That was a corruption of the word hollow, butcher hollow. There's little hollows between the high places in these mountains, little valleys where you can farm on the sides of slopes and things, rather like Switzerland in a way. And so they're very hard to reach. The people are cut off for long, prior to modern times, well into the 50s and 60s. Some of these towns didn't see an outsider for 3 or 4 years at a time. They were that cut off, dirt roads, bad weather, winter, they were impassable. So they're saying they could just be local legends that started up from that. But we do have actual evidence in the form of newspaper reports, county records, and even some ruins that show that these places, or at least a number of them, actually did exist. And now it's as if they've been expunged from the records. And why the government would do that, we don't know. The government said a couple places were sealed off for environmental reasons, apparently something to do with products from the coal mines themselves causing hallucinations. That's the federal government's explanation for the problem.
Hallucinations. Do you buy into the whole ley line business?
I kind of do. I never used to, but the evidence for the ley lines, I mean, the physical evidence that they exist is pretty incontrovertible in the sense that people used to build things in strange lines all the way across England, down into France, down into Italy. There is one ley line where a lot of the towns on it, from England down through France and into Italy, a lot of towns have the name Star in them. Whatever the language is, they have Star in that language. An unusually high number of towns along that ley line have the name Star in them, and they can't account for it. And the names go back so far, they're lost in antiquity. We don't know why the towns were named that, the villages. But yeah, if you go along that ley line, you'll find a lot of towns named Star in different locations.
Yeah, it's a strangest darn thing, we've got standout ley lines in the UK. Where there's two which run from Cornwall. One other place you love Cornwall.
Yes, I do.
Running all the way up towards North Suffolk and Norfolk, and you've got runs right through places like Bury St Edmunds Old Cathedral. It goes through Royston Caves, which is a famous caves where when you go and visit Royston Caves, nobody knows who actually who made the caves and who drew all the symbolism in the caves. So the scientists now, and archaeologists who studied it, don't know what timeline or who they were that actually made these caves. And the ley line, they're called the Michael and Mary line. The Michael line is a straight line, more direct as the crow flies. The Mary line kind of like zigzags, like a serpent.
Meanders.
Meanders, but crossing the Michael line at key points.
Right.
It's odd how it goes.
You have a major straight line that goes up from Glastonbury Abbey and goes straight on up to Roslyn Chapel, very straight line, and also passes right through a couple of Stonehenges, not the Stonehenge, but pretty good sized ones up near the border of the Lake District that I went to.
Yeah.
Do you have a minute? There's a story I'd like to tell you real fast, if I could.
I'd love it. No, crack on. Yeah.
Okay, when the Da Vinci Code was really popular, my father had dyslexia, and I would read the book out loud to him. And I finished a chapter where it was talking about Glastonbury Abbey. I had never heard of it. We're not English. And we were planning to visit England, and a friend of ours in England, the ex-British Marine, that very afternoon, about an hour after I finished that chapter with my father, he sent me an email, and he said, I've decided I'm going to take you guys to a couple places that you haven't seen. Glastonbury Abbey, Wells Cathedral, and up to the Lake District. And I told my father about it, and he was shocked. So anyway, we went there, and sure enough, he took us, and real quick itinerary, we went from Devon, and we went to Glastonbury Abbey, we went to Wells Cathedral, we went to an abbey near Glastonbury Abbey where they took the first British photograph ever taken, was from a window in that abbey, and of course I had to take a picture from that window too. Then we headed up north, and we went to the Lake District. We stayed on Lake Coniston, I think it was, in a farmhouse, and then we went up to Hadrian's Wall, and on the way we stopped at Stonehenge. And then on the way back, I said, could we please just pop into Wales so I can say I've actually been to Wales? So we went over to Raglan, went to Raglan's castle, and then we headed on home. We got home at his house, put our stuff up in our rooms, came back down. He switched on the TV. We hadn't been home 45 minutes. He didn't change the channel or anything. He just turned it on, and the show came on about a British photographer who was trying to champion his version of color film for cameras. And to do this, he decided to take his family on a trip. He took his family from Devon on the exact in a touring car. It was an hour-long show in England, a documentary about this man. I can't think of his name. I wish I could. And he went on this trip, and they went to, in the same exact order, Wells Cathedral. They went to Glastonbury Abbey. They went to the abbey where the picture was taken, and he even took a picture from the same window I did. Then they went up to the Lake District, stayed on Lake Coniston, then drove further north to Stonehenge near the border there. And then they went to Hadrian's Wall. And on the way back, they popped over into Wales to go to Raglan Castle in the village of Raglan, and then came home. There's no more down to earth than Chris. He was an ex-British Marine. He's the epitome of what I would call the old style Englishman. Very rational, doesn't believe in anything mythical or paranormal. And I had spoken to him about these weird synchronicities I had been having, and about the one we had with him before we left to go to England, about when he sent me that email about Glastonbury Abbey. And he said, do you see? I said, do you see? He turned off the TV right after the show ended, and we all just looked there, absolutely silent, not a voice spoke. And then I looked over at him, and he didn't say anything. So I finally said to him, I said, do you see what I mean now about synchronicities? He said, yeah, I do. And I said, so do you think they're real? He said, how could I not at this point, Rob? And I said, well, what do you think about it? He said, nothing. I said, what do you mean nothing? He said, nothing. I don't want to think about it, and I'm not going to think about it. And he would never discuss it again after that, ever. And I've known him for some 25 years now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Interesting.
Now that was weird. Yeah.
Mm,
so England's a strange place.
Yeah. No,
you guys have cornered the paranormal market, I think, really.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's just, I think it's just purely a case that we've kind of been good at. We've documented, and we've kind of, throughout the ages, we've spent time documenting a lot of, and we've had a lot of parables. We've had a lot of being farming communities and noting the seasons. We've also, and like Wiccas and Druids, and we've kind of like used a lot of symbolism and deities, and we've kind of utilized those to venerate the change of seasons, and to venerate, like the pharaohs did with Ra and the sun, and
right.
Stuff like that. So it's good. It's just because of the age, because it goes back so far, and it's just sort of evolved, I think, and that's why it's kind of generated. We've always had this documentation of the unknown in and around our culture. And it's kind of, but then it's morphed. A lot of times it's morphed with the advent of computers and AI and everything else. It's starting to morph. I mean, just to swing it a little bit, what's your take on Three Eye Atlas now? Because everyone's sort of banging on about it.
It's a comet. It's a comet. It's following all the laws of physics. They're trying to say it's not, but if you go on YouTube and you watch stuff like by Spatial Eyes and stuff like that, they always try to promote the idea that it's probably not just a comet, and it's got a whole horde of things following it. Well, if you go to the legitimate astronomer sites, NASA and ESA, I guess it is, and in Europe and other places, and they now, is it an unusual comet? Yes, but the thing is almost probably, they're guessing, 8 to 13 billion years old. It existed long before our solar system even formed. So it formed under conditions at a very distant part of the galaxy, under very different circumstances at a very ancient time. So of course it's not going to be the same kind of comet that we have in our solar system, which is not a first generation solar system. We're probably second or third generation.
Mm. I mean, it is quite. No, I found it to be quite odd. And I'll tell you what the oddest part I found with it is, like with the European Space Agency, the Cassis camera, on board the ExoMars gas tracer probe, that they had, that the
Mm.
latest blurry image, uh, which is like a white blob. Uh, that is 3 hours. The thing is that they've got so many probes and satellites which could have taken some really spot on images. I mean, we're talking, and probably have taken some spot on images. You got, I mean, China's Tianwen 1 orbiter with a high resolution camera on board. It's got, there's nothing back from it. It's like a NASA has closed its shop up. It's furloughed 15,000 staff. And it just comes at this precise time when really we do need all the information we can possibly get. So you've got China, but hasn't really come back with anything for us. You've got the European Space Agency. You've got NASA. All of it is kind of like closed their book, and it's very hard. They haven't even updated their websites with any
Well,
latest.
I mean, there are, yeah, and that's exactly what Spatialize and all these things are promoting. But NASA shut down because our government no longer has a budget. And so they're doing cutbacks everywhere in the IRS and Social Security. It's not just NASA, it's everyone. And is it unfortunate this time? Yes, but we usually go through this budget thing in this country about once a year or just about this time. And between Trump and the Democrats, it's still out. And is it hurting us really bad yet? No, but it will if it keeps on. You have to fund the government. So that's the reason NASA doesn't have it. And a lot of these telescopes have been booked months in advance. And
Mm,
people have waited years to get their time on them. And the time is extremely limited and it's extremely, can be extremely expensive and they don't want to miss their slots. That's another. Have we had reports that, yes, a lot of telescopes have shown exactly what you said, a white blob. Now, here's an example on Spatialize. They said, oh, the comet's changing its orbit. It's going towards Mars. And as it was passing Mars, it's releasing these strange chemicals from it. And they're affecting Mars because they're having this big dust storm on Mars at the exact same time it passed. Well, the closest it came to Mars was 18 million miles. If that comet was giving off dust particles and gases, it would take months, if not years, for those molecules to finally get to Mars. They're not traveling in the right direction. Number one, they're moving along with the comet on its orbit. And secondly, as they diffuse through space, 18 million miles is a long way to go, even for one of our rockets at top speed. So that kind of shows you that. And both the orbiter and even the rover on Mars managed to get pictures of it. And
mm,
same thing, a white blob. Has it changed its course? No. It is heading towards the sun exactly as predicted on the same exact orbit. It is showing a
mm,
coma. If you did that to blew up Pluto, and pieces of it came towards the sun, large chunks of Pluto, pure nitrogen, is not visible. It's an invisible gas. So as it sublimated as it approached the sun, there would be no coma. And yes, it's a different mix of chemicals than what we're used to, but some of them are the same. Carbon dioxide is there. There's some water there. So the proof of the pudding is in the eating, as you English would say. And when I see an alien spaceship pop out of that, then I'll believe it. But until then, it's just a comet.
yeah,
And
but
I've,
spectral.
I'm sorry.
Rob, no, I was just saying that they've done spectroscopic analysis, and the results on 3i Atlas is it's releasing nickel gas, but almost no iron emissions, and in a grand
And that is
cosmic.
unusual. Yes, that's an
Yeah,
anomaly. Normally, our comets and asteroids are a combination of nickel and iron. But
yeah, they're
again,
twins. Mm,
this one formed in a different part of our galaxy, 8 to 13 billion years ago, probably from our first generation sun, which was primarily probably a hydrogen star. Our star
mm,
has other elements in it because it's not a first generation star. So it would, when it formed its solar system and that comet escaped from it, it was probably a different number of chemicals and a different combination of chemicals than what we have now. But a lot of it's the same too. We have the carbon dioxide, we have the water moisture, more carbon dioxide than we thought it should have, carbon monoxide, less water than we want it to have compared to our comets only. It's only by comparison to our comets, but it's not from our solar system. And we can't imagine that every solar system is exactly the same in its constituent elements because there's different generations of stars. You'll have the first generation stars, which are helium, probably have huge Jovian gas giant planets. Then you have second generation stars, which produce rocky planets like the Earth and Mars and Venus. So, yeah, it's again, if it changes, I'll gladly change my opinion. But until I see evidence of any real sort, other than a few chemical anomalies. I mean, what is so? It has a little more nickel than iron. What does that prove? That the spaceship that it really is made of nickel rather than iron?
No,
I don't.
no, I'm not. I'm not saying it is a spaceship. I think. I mean, I've got my own theory on
What
it,
is
but
your take on? What is your theory? I'd like to hear your theory. What is your theory?
well, I think that it's a lot of it is the dust particles are being ionized as soon as because it's drawing. I'll tell you what my theory is. It's drawing an awful lot of attention from. Oh, hang on, my light's gone yet again. Hold on. It's drawing a lot of. It's drawing a lot of attention from the sun in the way of we're having increased flares, and the flares are going towards this object. Also, we're having an increase.
No, wait a minute. Well, let's stop right there for just a second. The sun is at its maximum. This is the time in the solar cycle when the sun has more flares than any other time in its solar cycle. We are just now reaching the solar maximum. Secondly, that was a large coronal mass that was ejected towards Mars, and then the my mind's blanking. The comet just happened to be going on that path in that direction. But it's also ejecting coronal masses in every direction, including towards Earth. We had one just a couple of weeks ago. So that's, to me, it's just random.
Hang on. Right. That's on. Yeah, I'm back on. Okay. Yeah, no, that's quite true. But we've also we've gotten, I believe that it's plasma. A lot of this is because it's the dust particles are being ionized. It's creating plasma. That's why people saw this projection like a headlamp in front of it. And you talking about frequencies. There is, I think, an awful lot of electromagnetic frequency throughout the universe, and I think it could be almost. I like to think of it like Arthur C. Clarke's 2001, when they found the monolith, and I think it could be a case of it. It can interact with Earth's electromagnetic field from the point of view of interacting with us as well on an electromagnetic basis. We're having an awful lot of seismic activity on Earth at the moment, an awful lot more, and they're all in the upper scale with the earthquakes. They're kind of like a lot more severe and clustered.
That they think could be in correlation with the solar maximum. There is a theory about that. I get the impression you believe in the electric theory of the universe, the electric field theory of the universe.
There is something which I have been giving some thought to. Yes, I have been giving some thought to that. Yeah.
Do I look like Blofeld from James Bond here with my
Yes, you do actually. Yeah, all you got to do is say, yeah, yes, that's right. You, yes, I invited you here, Phil. Yes, that's right. Thank you for the invite, Rob. Yes, to unalive you, Phil. Yes, I've got a tank full of sharks. You'll never
Sharks,
leave.
yeah.
Yes,
or a
Mr.
furnace.
Bond. You got to do the laugh as well. Blofeld laugh.
Apparently, he didn't like using a pew pew. He had to use his chairs that flipped him into a furnace for sharks infested water. I mean, good Lord, couldn't you just use a normal method? I mean, do you really have to go to such extremes? Although I love the movies.
Right. I think we've had a great discussion. and it's kind of like it's really sort of been a brain gymnastic session for me. It's been really good. I've really enjoyed it. And then it has to be spoilt with the words pew pew and unalived. Like we're 6 years old.
I know, from the sublime to the ridiculous, really. But I mean, it's the times we live in.
Yeah.
Maybe it's better that people are more aware of that than not being aware of it enough. Who knows? I mean,
Yeah.
if you go back to the 50s, 60s, and 70s, it was not a great time as far as tolerance goes. And now we're more tolerant, I think.
Yeah. No,
And if we
that's right.
overextend it a little bit, maybe that's better than not extending it far enough. I don't know.
Yeah.
Rob,
are you okay to answer a few questions from people?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, then. Right. Then if Rox can bring on the first question for us, that'd be brilliant. Let's have a look.
Nobody's questioning, right?
No, they are. I just got to go back into it. Let's have a look. Aha, here we go. Right. No, there is quite a few. Hang on. Okay, 1 minute. Boo, 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 boo. Bear with, caller. Oh, yeah. Okay. Who is running the Fabian Society? I heard a Freemason who was kicked out of a spiritualist church for being a Satanist, a Satanist started it.
The Fabian Society, I didn't even think they were still around. Doesn't that date back to like the early 1900s, late 1800s?
Yeah. I heard the Freemasons kicked out of the spiritualist church for being a Satanist started it. Well, I know a little bit about the Freemasons, and
more than I do, probably.
Yeah, I remember going. Do you know what a funny thing is? I went to the Freemasons Museum. There's a Freemasons Museum, and I went there just to have a little look around. And it's got portraits of people that have been previous, 33rd level Freemasons. And I was like looking at some of these austere paintings, portraits of people. And as I was going down the corridor, all of a sudden I saw this guy, and over here he was called Rod Hull, and he used to be a puppeteer with an emu. So he used to have his hand stuck up an emu, a puppet, and he was famous for like kind of the emu. He was in an interview. I think it was with either Russell Harty or Michael Parkinson. People over here will know. Anyway, it was being interviewed, and then all of a sudden, this emu just like kind of went for the interviewer, yeah, and just like kind of started tussling on the floor and all sorts. I was amazed that this guy basically was 33rd Freemason, and he was basically like a comedian. But I don't know the answer to that without referencing it, the Fabian. I did think it was gone.
I was invited to join the Freemasons when I was in England. A gentleman I met in London wanted me to join the Masons, and I didn't see the point since I wasn't going to be living in England. But and it's much stronger in England, I think, than it is here. Oddly enough, I was also invited to join the Illuminati. And I am a member of the Illuminati. No. But I was invited.
Yeah. I've had messages. I had a message from this guy who said, and it was quite a long-winded, protracted message going on about we've been watching you and listening to you and da-da-da. We'd like to invite you to the Illuminati, for potential membership of the Illuminati. And I was like, oh, okay, that'd be cool. And I said, well, okay, then, what's your founding ethos in the Illuminati? What is the criteria for me to? Because if you kind of want me to do some perverse acts, I'm up for that. But And it just went dead after a while. The conversation just ended. So I guess I sort of said the wrong thing, or I just wasn't their cup of tea, or what. But no, I'd be up for joining the Illuminati just to sort of find out what it's all about.
That I was curious, but I didn't join. And the man I knew in England, we had met at a hotel in Bournemouth when I was there with my father one time, and we became friends. And then next time we went over, we invited him to come with us to Devon, and he and his wife. So they did. But he wanted me to join the Masons. But I said, what do they do? I mean, what? I know they help with charities and things, but I don't. Other than helping themselves out, I don't. Yeah. By the way, haven't you guys had some kind of big contretemps going on in London about the Metropolitan Police Force and Freemasonry or something? I just saw something on the news yesterday about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's funny with the Masons. It's like when you look around the museum, they've got a whole wealth of pottery in glass cases. Some really interesting stuff with designs on, and they've got because they've got how it sort of like started was because of the foundation stone of King Solomon.
Right.
Foundation stone. And they're believed to still have the original foundation stone of his temple. No, interesting. But once again, it's kind of it's got this air about it of a lot of stuffed shirts who were ex-politicians or ex-policemen or ex-this, and kind
Judges,
of.
that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
I'm not too sure if I really sort of, I don't know if they wouldn't even ask me anyway. But I don't think I would like kind of, you know, I don't smoke cigars and I don't drink port, so I don't think it'll be for me. We've got Keith Aston. Hello, Keith. Said, what are extra? You can read that. I'm not going to pronounce it. Right. I think what this is, Rob, is Keith is part of a group that believes in Bigfoot. Okay. And they have it started. This group is by Matthew A. Johnson, Dr. J, in the States, and he met a Bigfoot, and it explained to him who the group was, what they were, and they were from another planet, and they came through on the portal because their planet was dying, and they want to be known as the Janu. They don't want to be called Bigfoot. They don't like it. They get annoyed. They're called the Janu, and there's a whole kind of like law around them, around the Janu. There's a whole kind of like law, if you like, which they've kind of like explained to this guy, Matthew Johnson. I interviewed him. Interesting guy, nice guy. And he saw a portal. So when Keith was saying what are exterti cannons, I can't even say the word.
Ecliptic, which is the apparent path of the sun across the celestial sphere over the course of a year.
Yeah, it's something which he's heard in his head. I'm saying that in a nice way. It's something that he heard. So it
You're
wouldn't have
crazy.
any.
I'm saying that in a nice way.
Yeah, I don't know how to say it where I don't sound absolutely confused and stupid, but yeah,
I'll take that as a
it's kind of
compliment.
like something that
But
he's
certainly,
heard in his head, and he's wondering if anyone else has heard of that same. I said he messaged me about it, and I said no, I haven't heard of that before. So it came to him in a dream, I believe. So but no,
I've never heard of Zerta canyons in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. That's completely out of my area of expertise. So I'm sorry, but I really can't help Keith on that one.
no,
I have
I
no.
can't either. I must admit, I don't
Yeah.
know. Keith said also, Free Eye Atlas just sent a signal to the moon and it answered back. Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Right.
I'm glad that's not a question.
Yeah.
It's more of a statement, isn't it?
8th of October.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't got any referencing on that. So I can't really give an opinion. I
I just
know.
checked it out before coming on the air, and I haven't seen anything in that regard at all. But that doesn't mean it isn't out there. I just didn't see it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can show you a little bit. He's also he's saying, what about Cannock Chase? Cannock Chase, Rob, is one of our biggest forests, and it's full of cryptids and ghosts, and it's a bit like the Appalachian. Okay, it's it's an area of high density paranormality.
Where in England is this?
It's near Birmingham, not far from Birmingham. Called
Could have
Cannock
picked a better
Chase.
location.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I went there with Colin Kilty from the Dark 66 this year, and we've done investigation and stuff, So yeah, that I've still got to drop that. I haven't edited it. So but it's a very interesting place. A lot of accounts of black-eyed children, Dogman, Bigfoot being seen there. Uh, Ghosts
Chupacabra.
out the time.
Yeah.
No chupacabra. No, they're just
No.
being silly now, aren't they? No. And we definitely haven't had any of those exto cannons either. Not there.
How about Celery Man? Do you have Celery Man over there?
No, we have Pigman.
Yeah, I think we have a pig man here too. I think he's up in Michigan.
Have you?
Yeah, a pig man. Yeah, a guy that's like half pig, half human.
Yeah.
Or am I thinking about Washington, D.C.?
We're not going to go down a political path this time. Yeah, I think I'm going to be struck enough anyway with me unalive business. Yeah, and right, yeah. So let's have a little look. Okay, got another one here. Rob, what do you think the cone-headed skulls are? That's a good one.
I think some of them are a result of binding of the head. And I think the reason people used to bind the heads that way is because the original hybrid or aliens, whatever you want to call them, had heads shaped like that. There is a reason why all the pharaohs have this huge helmet that tilts back as if they were wearing a cone head when they don't have cone heads, just the helmet. And they said that there were a couple of pharaohs very early on that actually did have that there were several pharaohs that had that shaped head, and that's why the helmet's that way. I think the people who bind their kids' heads to look like that were emulating the gods who controlled their lives, and therefore they wanted to emulate them. I think the reason we have churches today is because at one time we had the temples that were actual palaces, like for the Anunnaki, where humans actually did serve them in person. I don't think the Anunnaki were well suited to the Earth environment and didn't come out of their palaces or temples, whatever you want to call them. And they had their own priesthood that served them. And it talks about that at length in their records. But we still have the palaces, we call them cathedrals and churches now, and we still have the priesthood, but the gods seem to have vanished from them, at least the Anunnaki style gods. But yeah, I think the cone heads, some of them are real. I think some of them are real. Did you just see yesterday where they came out in the news where one scientist said he's found strands of DNA, genetic code in the human body that appear to be alien in nature?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was just yesterday I read that. So I think there could be something to it. I think some of the cone heads are from binding, but some are from people emulating others.
Yeah, no, I think possibly, yeah, I think possibly it could well be. I think DNA, alien DNA is entirely possible. There's something which is about us which is intrinsically different to any other species, and also it's once again it's
I'm sorry. What other species are we intrinsically different to? How about the chimpanzee? Would you say we're intrinsically different from the chimpanzee?
Well, if it was evolution, then there would have been, surely there would have been a step between us at the moment. There would have been an evolutionary step. There's a hell of a high jump from going from chimpanzee to us, Homo sapiens now.
Why do you say that? Because chimpanzees actually use tools and actually can learn to use different tools on their
Yeah,
own.
yeah,
But
rudimentary,
also,
yeah.
I just saw today where there was a chimpanzee that looked in the mirror. They had painted a red mark on his forehead. He looked in the mirror, saw the red mark on the chimp's forehead in the mirror, but he didn't reach out to the mirror. He reached out to his own head and touched the mark on his own head. He was aware that he was looking at an image of himself. So he had a sense of
Hmm.
self-awareness.
Oh yeah,
So,
I'm not saying
and
that.
also, and genetically, they're less than 5% different from us. So I think we're pretty darn close to some of our relatives here on Earth, actually.
Yeah,
Very
we're
close.
pretty darn close also to a banana.
No, there's much bigger difference genetically between a banana and a chimpanzee and a human. For one thing, you're not yellow.
That's true. It depends on the lighting. Depends on the
Yeah,
lighting.
yeah, it does with me too. I have that Alexa lighting in here.
I've had nothing but just trouble all the way with technical issues tonight. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's just I don't know. I mean, well, I think we're kind of like very, very different from the point of view of I'm not a big believer in a Darwinist theory of evolution. I'm really not. I think that we are in a way created. I think there's a section of us, there's something in us which is I hate to use the word program because it's too mechanical, but there's something which is sets us apart from the chimpanzee, which it makes us a, a a hybridized system.
Different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It makes us
Now, do
completely
you think that was aliens who did that to this, or do you think it was just natural? I mean, I personally think we have been tinkered with, and I do think it was something like the Anunnaki. I really do. I think there's reasonable evidence to suppose that it is a distinct possibility. Maybe not a probability, but a distinct possibility. Do you think it was alien in nature, the tampering with us?
What was say again? What was?
Do you think it was alien in nature, the tampering with us to make us different from other animals?
No, I don't. I'll tell you
Well,
why
then
I don't. Because the aliens are
what do you
pretty
think caused it?
stupid. The aliens are pretty stupid. Aliens are new kids on the block. I believe. I know you're saying that ancient aliens, and that's fine. I get it. But in the grand scheme of things, there's ancient as ancient, and I don't. I've look. Every time somebody gets abducted by an alien, every time that an alien decides to make an appearance, that it
Mhm.
has no idea. It has no skill of understanding of us at all. It seems to have no emotion. It's robotic. It's without any remorse. It's without any feeling. And there's a very famous by Pharisees where it says, "But no beast so fierce, yet know some touch of pity. Yet I know none. Therefore am no beast." And that sums the aliens up quite nicely. They know no remorse. And because of that, they know no humility. They don't know when there'll be someone on the table, they get abducted, they're put onto a table, they get prodded, probed, they get things put under their skin, they get this happen, that happen, and the people are screaming, and you'll get this alien turn around to them, and this is witnessed by people very often, and they'll turn around, and the aliens will say, "But why are you crying? You'll be home soon." Like it's kind of, you get Men in Black turning up at a door 11:30 at night. Like a vampire, they won't come in. They have to be invited in. But then when they talk in a robotic manner. They don't seem to have the skill of communication for all of their intelligence and their advancement in this area of UFO and drones and everything else. They seem pretty stupid, really.
Well, they
I
could be biological constructs, you know.
believe
We
they
are
can.
we're experiencing with artificial life already. We've actually had a computer that actually created the DNA sequence for another creature, microscopic, you know, micro. But we've done it, and we've done it
Yeah.
from scratch. We didn't take existing genes; we did it from scratch. So, artificial life, artificial constructs, better designed for investigation of other planets, maybe.
Yeah. There's something which I need to talk to you about in private with that one. I'll have to talk to you about that one in private, but there's something I want to pass by you. But yeah, I think that with the constructs, I think you are barking up the right tree.
Or it could be they just evolved without the same kinds of emotions we have because they evolved under different circumstances. Alien star, maybe a dwarf red sun. I don't know, but they don't. I think they're immoral. I don't think they have, or their morals are so different that they have no concept of human rights at all. It seems like they just completely ignore that whatsoever, and that's basic human rights. They don't seem to. They think abduction's okay. They think molesting people is okay. Experimenting on them is okay as long as you don't remember it's not a problem. It's still a problem. If you commit a crime, just because people don't know you committed the crime doesn't mean you didn't commit the crime. If I murdered, if I unalived someone and put him in a field somewhere and no one ever found out, it doesn't mean that that person was unalived. You know, I mean, they're still gone. Yeah, I don't think they're necessarily evil, but I don't think there are space brothers either. I really don't. Show me
Yeah.
proof that there are space brothers. I'd love to see proof. I'd love to be wrong on that. God, I could use an extraterrestrial Santa Claus who could give us the secrets of the universe and save us from ourselves.
There's a note of desperation there, you know, Rob.
Yeah, I know there is. Yeah. It's the times.
Yeah. You know, I do think that you know, we are created. Whether we're created by them, I don't know. I think we're giving them too much credit. I think there's so many species that is spoken about. You've got the insectoids, you've got the greys, you've got the
Reptilian.
Yeah.
The Nordic. You have the Nordic ones
Yeah, the
as well.
Nordic as well.
Yeah. And you also have the little blue meanies that smell like wet cardboard. So there you go.
Yeah, exactly. They were written quite extensively by Whitley Strieber. He had a lot to do with the blue.
Communion, I believe, was the book. Yes.
Yeah, and there's another one, The Supernatural, which he co-wrote with Jeffrey J. Cripple. Very good book. Goes into detail about that quite a bit about the blue aliens. It's fascinating. It is fascinating. You're if you've got a little bit of time, you don't have directly, I understand, a UFO experience, but a family member did, didn't he?
Yes, my brother, when he was 16, went to the desert to camp with a friend, and they were going to be picked up by the other guy's father the next morning. That was pretty typical of San Diego. You just drive over the mountains, you're in the desert. People did it all the time. So anyway, they did it. Near midnight, they saw a red light flashing across the sky, quite low, and they assumed it was a meteor, and it looked like it came down not too far from them, less than a mile away. So even though it was dark and in the desert, my brother said, "Hey, let's go check it out, see if we can find it," you know. And so his friend said, "Yeah, okay, let's do that, John." And the next thing that they remember is striking camp in the morning, the guy's father coming to pick him up and driving him home. That was the end of the whole experience. It wasn't until about 18 years or so later, when my brother had long since moved to Las Vegas, that he was in the shower and something came out of his elbow, a great piece of something that was like plastic but wasn't plastic. And suddenly he remembered that the whole thing about the meteor. They completely forgot the whole meteor incident, but he couldn't remember what happened to them after they said, "Yeah, let's go look at it." So he called his friend who still lived in San Diego with his family. Excuse me. And his friend said, "Yeah, I remember it now that you said it, but I didn't remember it until now." So they started talking about it, and they got so involved in it that the friend took his wife and his kids. They sold their house in San Diego, moved to Las Vegas so he could be closer to my brother so that they could explore it more thoroughly. And they did this for a number of years. And my brother does not claim to have been abducted. He has no memory either way. Neither does John. He does claim missing time. He wanted to get hypnosis to find out, and I warned him against it. Unless you're with a really certified, bona fide hypnotist, they can accidentally plant false memories. And once they've planted them, you think they're real, and that's it for the rest of your life. You got those memories.
Mhm.
So I told him, unless he was willing to pay or go to a really reputable hypnotist, that he probably shouldn't basically pollute his memories with false memories, just in case. And not long before he passed, I asked him, I said, "Michael," I said, and this was before I knew he was ill. I said, "Michael, if you were on your deathbed, would you want to know the answer?" Because he had stopped. He and John were very heavily into it. They took videos at Area 51, outside on a mountaintop nearby. They went to Nellis Air Force Base. They saw UFOs in the distance. They videoed them. I've seen the videos. And I said, "So would you like to know the answer, before you die? If you could." And he said, "Well, it depends." And I said, "On what, Mike?" And he said, "On whether it's a good answer or not." And that was where he left it.
Yeah.
And then he passed not long after, and I don't know if he got him or not. So, but it left me wondering about it to the point where I began to get involved in researching it, and I sort of picked up where he left off, and I've been doing that ever since. Oh, and I think I used that word again, didn't I? Gosh darn it! I got to stop using that.
Yeah. I'll have to poo-poo you.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I've
Isn't
not
it?
had that
No,
problem
no,
before.
yeah. As your ventures into, your books and your research, and has it directed you into any sort of religious feeling? Have you seen any correlation with any particular religion with what you found out from referencing your books?
The only thing I can say for sure is that a lot of what we found out seems to be indicative of the Vedic texts of the ancient Indians and the Sumerian Anunnaki texts. It seems to give them corroboration, and there is some evidence that makes me think that those might be real. As for us and our religions, I'm not at all sure. My personal opinion, and it is just my personal opinion, is that our belief in religions is a holdover from when they controlled us and made us think they were gods and wanted to keep us in ignorance. Have you ever wondered why the tree of life was never forbidden, but the tree of knowledge was? You go back to ancient times, and the tree of knowledge, knowledge has always been forbidden. It's always been forbidden. Prometheus gave man fire and was condemned eternally by the other gods for having done it. The Anunnaki said that we were not to gain knowledge, and the Indian Vedic texts talk about the only people trusted with alien knowledge or the gods' knowledge were a few very special people that they trusted to pilot their vimanas, their flying craft. The Vedic texts go into detail about the vimana, even how they work. They used mercury in some way, liquid mercury. But I mean, if those are the Indians believe that it's their history. We call it mythology. They don't.
Yeah. No, it's the thing is, it's still going on. I mean, we've just spoken about they years ago, yes, they did forbade mere mortals or man knowledge above his station. It's still going on now. We've just spoken about it, and NASA shutting down its information highway when it comes to Free Eye Atlas. We've had the same with the European
Yeah,
Space
I think that's
Agency.
more just budgetary problems with the federal
Yeah,
government right
but
now.
you
I
know,
really do.
you could,
You can make conspiracy theories about anything, but
well, this is a conspiracy channel. Come on, Rob. It's like kind
well,
of,
and I'm a conspiracy writer, so yeah, I'm hard, I can't exactly, here's without sin can cast the first stone. If you look at my books, I pretty much promote conspiracy. So
yeah. Just a quick
but
one.
my conspiracies are true. Your conspiracies aren't true. You see, that's the difference.
Oh, see, look. Now
Yeah, there you go.
now we're getting into that's a low blow.
It's
Rob.
all
That's a low
relative, like
blow.
Einstein. Yeah,
It's all relative. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So, what I was going to say, where is a cryptid channel also? Where do you stand on things like Dogman and Bigfoot? What's your
I think
feelings on that?
Bigfoot or something like it might very well be real. I think something like Mothman might very well be real. By the way, in Cornwall, you have a Mothman as well. They call it the Owl Man there, but it's been there and it's been there for a long time. And also in London, you had a character that was very like the Mothman. I can't think of his name, something Jack, but
Spring Hill Jack.
That's it. Yes,
Yeah.
and he was very like. So I think some of the cryptids are real. The Dogman, people, there are mutations, natural. Most mutations are lethal, but there are people like the Elephant Man who are born with horrible disfiguring, and some of them might be mistaken for creatures because they see them at night or alone or in isolated places. Well, if you look like that, you'd probably want to be alone and in isolated places. You wouldn't want a bunch of people pointing and staring at you. So it could be that too. But yes, I think some cryptids are real, to give you the short answer.
Yeah.
But not necessarily all. I'm not sure Celery Man is real. Next
Which
thing you know,
one's
we'll have Turnip Man.
Celery Man. Yeah. No, definitely not. No, it'll be politically, it'll be Corn Man now. It'll be something like that. Corn Man. So the vegetarians and vegans, it would be nothing that
the Impossible Burger Man.
Which one?
The Impossible Burger Man for
Oh
vegetarians.
yeah, the Impossible. I've seen him.
I actually like those quite a bit.
Yeah,
but
I relish the day I meet him.
Is that a bad pun? Because it sure sounded like one. Not as good as in your salad days.
This has been a fun time, I must admit. Us chatting. I can't call it an interview. It's just been a bit of a
conversation.
Yeah,
kind of.
But
I mean, did your listeners get to hear anything of value to them, or are we just shooting the breeze and giving them a hard time? I hope so too. Yeah,
I hope so. I'll have a look at the comments, see who's asleep.
There's only one person there.
No, tonight's we've got a comment saying from Sasquatch Sister. Tonight's been great. Let's have a look. Thank you for tonight, Rob. It's been very interesting.
Well, how nice.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yep.
No one's shouting, "Lock him up" or "Put him away in an asylum" or anything like that.
No sectioning yet. No. No, not yet. But
still coming, is it?
I think yeah, I think that's out for debate now. I think that's
yeah, probably on the edge.
Was it Alice in Wonderland? We're all mad here,
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
Did you know Mad Hatters really were mad? They used mercury. They used mercury to do the brims to give them that nice stiffness, and in the process, they were licking them and stroking it to get the way they wanted to. And over time, they went crazy from mercury poisoning.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's what I read. And if I read it, it must be true.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it must be. I mean, we only speak the truth here. But no, it's been great having you on. I honestly do appreciate you coming on. It's now 2 hours, 2.5 hours we've been
Wow.
waffling on we have. Yeah. But
Yeah, and it has been a lot of waffling too, hasn't it?
well, from my side especially, I do tend to waffle,
Mine too.
But listen, there's so much to cover. Would you come on again one day?
Oh, absolutely. Whenever you'd like to have me.
Oh, that's really nice of
just-
you. And what have you?
I enjoy talking to you. It's almost like I'm not on an interview. I just feel like I'm talking to a friend in another country, you know?
Yeah, I feel the same. You know, when you sort of like bond with someone, it's like kind of. I think we, you know, kind of. Yeah, I feel
Yeah, I
like
wish
you're a
I'd
friend.
been able to visit you when I was over there. Just at least met in person, had coffee or something, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe
No.
we still can. Maybe we still can.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's like kind of, you know, it's a random state of molecules out there until they're witnessed, they don't take form. So perhaps together we will form a cup of coffee and meet up and, you know, be
Project
lovely.
our own reality. Yeah.
Let's
Be
project,
nice.
let's project ourselves on reality. Let's just
Yeah,
try that.
yeah.
Yeah. You know, I wish I could project
And while you're
myself.
at it, would you project me into being a millionaire? I could use the extra money.
What are you on about? You
Yeah.
got a new car out, that book.
Well, yes, but it was only a Honda Civic Hybrid. I
I'll be
want a
lucky when my
Tesla.
I'll be lucky when my book comes out if I get a bicycle. But,
Are you going to
but yeah,
self-publish or are you going to go through a publisher?
no, I don't know. I'd like to go through a publisher, but only I only say that because they've got they've got the distribution to get the book out there.
Kindle
But
has the same distribution system. Barnes & Noble has it. You can upload your book to Barnes & Noble. They have their own system now, just like Smashwords. They're all duplicates of Amazon Kindle, but you can have your books everywhere. They have programs that convert it to Kindle for you, into print for you, into hardcover for you. They have create cover programs that do your covers for you. Their AI will edit and proofread your books for you. And I don't see that publishers do. I'm with 5 publishers now, and I'm not unhappy with them, but I don't think they're doing much. Like there used to be, they did the marketing. They would set up book tours for you. They don't do that anymore. None of them. They don't do that anymore. I'm with Simon Schuster. They did Harry Potter, and they don't do any marketing for me. Yeah.
damn.
Yep. Type in my name on Google and type in Simon Schuster after it. It comes up. So,
Wow.
but they don't do any. They only do it for the really big authors. I'm sure they still do it, but only for the people that really make them the money. For us
Yeah.
mid-level authors or low-level authors, no, we don't do it anymore. So
Yeah.
you're on your own. So if you're on your own anyway, you might as well just self-publish and keep all the royalties for most of them anyway. Instead of
Yeah, I
35%,
guess.
I'm getting 70. You know. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies. There's a other company, Book BY or bookby.com or something. They also do
Yeah, you
publishing.
got to be careful. They charge. You got to be careful. Vanity presses are proliferating all over the place now. They don't call themselves vanity presses. They say, "No, we're genuine publishers." I said, "Do you charge us to get the?" Well, yes, we have to have you do it, and you have to pay our editors and stuff. I said, "It used to be we didn't have to. That was what you did. We wrote the book. You did the editing and the marketing and the publishing." But they don't do anything anymore but publish. So, with a few exceptions, there's some minor independent houses that probably are still doing it, but unluckily I haven't found them. So, yeah, and I'm with some pretty good companies, and they do their job to the limit that they do these days, but they don't do anything extra. No.
Okay, all right. All right. Well, I'm a little ways away. I'm trying to do about 60,000 words, which is about 240 pages, 250 pages. So
yeah,
I've
it
got
is. I average 65,000 for most of my books. Yeah. Although
and
lately they've been a little shorter. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
what
I
is your
did
book
look
about?
through. Huh?
What is your book about?
My book's going to be basically about the first half of it is kind of like my own, to give people background, my own experiences that I've had, and how those experiences have linked. There's a thread of, there's a link linking everything together, even though I've had ghost experiences. I haven't had UFO ones. I've seen UFOs, but haven't had any close encounters, as it were.
Yeah, I understand.
But Dogman experiences, but stuff that people don't know, the experiences that I didn't tell.
It's so
So
hard not to make a joke about the dog man, like you're barking up the wrong tree, or I
yeah,
hope you had a
oh
howling good
yeah,
time,
no,
or
yeah, yeah. It is, but do you know what? It's uh, I'm telling you this honestly. I've seen the Dogman. I've seen uh a it was human bodied with a wolf's head, pointy ears, long muzzle, white teeth, yellow eyes, and I've
does
seen
the
it.
prime minister count? I mean, you're not
Yeah,
talking about
that's it. That's another thing, isn't it? Yeah.
No, I believe you because I won't go hiking trails up in the Appalachian Mountains because I think the Bigfoot exists, or at least I'm fairly sure he exists, and I'm not going to take the risk. That we just had
Mm,
another case here just like a day or so ago, where someone had something land on the roof of their car, and they didn't stop the car. It was at night. They were in the Appalachian Trail, and they were on the road there. And when it stopped, they at a gas station. He didn't want to do it out in the middle of the dark, in the middle of the night, nowhere. So at a gas station, he checked, and there were handprints, clear handprints, all over the roof of his car. And he had just washed his car before he went on the trip, and they weren't his handprints. So he doesn't know what it was, or it's enough to, I'm not walking in the woods alone. You know what they say? Don't go into the woods alone. You know.
yeah, I often do though. But I am a bit of
But your
a
woods
trot
are
anyway.
tame. I mean, England, your woods are tame. You've planted all your trees. They're all in
Yeah.
straight lines. Have you noticed that?
Yeah,
Look at
yeah,
your woods.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
all in
A
rows.
lot of them are now. Yeah, a lot of them are.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
go to Rendlesham Forest, anywhere like that. A lot of the forest now, that you see lines of trees because
Hmm.
they've been the original forest is just
You
gone.
can
There's
blame
no
Henry
such thing
VIII
in
for that.
yeah. There's no such thing in nature as a straight line. It doesn't just
No.
it doesn't happen. So yeah, the book's going to be a little bit about that. So it's got a background of my past, but then my book's going to be what I believe we are, what I believe we're seeing, why we're seeing it. So it's given a bit of background why it gives
You
me
wouldn't care
advice.
to elucidate on that just a little bit, would you? I'm kind of curious. What do you think?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think that with time anyway, let's put it this way, with time, I believe that what we're seeing and when we see entities, um,
Different
what we're
cat.
seeing are in a way avatars. Okay, so
Hmm.
they see us like we see them, but we see them in a moment of time. Two people on the train, two different trains on different tracks, and they're both going in opposite directions. There's going to be one point where we're going to be in a point of
In
stasis.
sync. Right.
Yeah, we sync momentarily. And I think that the inertia of time for them will be traveling slightly faster than us. We are stuck on one time. There is only the now. There is only the now that we're living in. Um, Only because of the construct of how we interpret, like you said, what's going on. What we're taking in is the past. It is. You're completely right. But our um
Yeah, we
our
don't really live in the now. We live in a microsecond into the past.
we do, yeah, we do,
Yeah.
yeah. But our comprehension and our synapses fire in the present. Our comprehension and our action is of the present to us, but everybody has their own present. So if you like,
Right.
everyone has their own individual time. Okay, so my time will be different to yours slightly. Maybe because your comprehension of seeing the same uh, road traffic accident, you'll see that road traffic accident in a slightly different angle to me, which will correspond to you as a different scene, a different cause of the accident, a different damage in the accident. That's just an example. Everyone's got their own individual presence. their own individual time, and we're fluttering along on this frame in the film, this frame of time that's going along at 35 frames per second. But
So
these
like the
avatars,
soul moves through all these still frames and gives us the illusion of time being linear.
yeah. John
Yeah.
Keel once said famously, didn't he, that the only difference between us and them, he was talking about, the Mothmen at the time, is they have a different they have a
Perspective
different
on time.
perspective.
Yeah.
Yes, they have a different
He
perspective.
uses the expression like a valley. If you live in a valley between two high mountain ranges, that's your world. It's blocked by these mountain ranges on either side of you, and that's all you can see. But if you
Yeah.
went to the top of the mountain, you could see so much further, and it's the same reality, but you see more of it.
You see more of it. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And so John Keel, another one of my heroes, he had that perspective, and he thought everything was tied together. What we're seeing, there was a thread of truth running throughout the whole of the Mothman, the Mornan in Cornwall, the Bigfoot, with ghosts, everything is tied together, and there is a grand unification, and it has a lot to do with us. All of these things have to be witnessed, and they crave to be witnessed by us. A lot of witnesses often say that, well, I saw a Dogman or I saw a Bigfoot, and the fight or flight instinct, the flight part of it doesn't kick in. The fight part doesn't kick in, but the witnessing part does. They have to stay there and they have to witness. A lot of UFO
So you think
abductees.
we're observers? Our role is cast as observers?
I think that we're intrinsically coupled to what we observe, where we have to in a way observe for them to manifest in a lot of cases. When it
So do
comes
you
to
think we're
aliens,
involved in the manifestation?
are we involved in, sorry?
And are we involved in creating the manifestation to any degree? Is our act of witnessing also the act of them being able to materialize, so to speak?
I honestly do believe that we have we do. I think there is a biocentric thought about that. Now I'll tell you why I think that is because throughout life that I've found, there's been so many synchronicities where my want or need has manifested. So it might have been as a kid, I wanted to get a certain bicycle, a chopper, and it has manifested. I used to go to sleep
Wasn't that because you nagged your parents into buying it for you?
Yeah, it could have been actually. Everywhere I went, I was like,
You call it manifesting, I call it nagging.
Yeah, do you know what? My sister would love to get a chopper, Dad, a new bike. She'd love to get one of those. Yeah, but yeah, I think there is. I think there honestly is almost a symbiosis between them and us. It doesn't happen with. Take for instance with our dogs, your cats. Are they frightened to go out into a dark hallway? Are they hesitant to go out into a dark hallway?
No, they don't seem to be. I wish they would sometimes, but no. I'm looking at them right now. Okay, sure.
Yeah, I see that one on the bed. Yeah,
by the way, I'm about to lose my earbuds. I had them fully charged for this, but I think they're about to go on.
We have been yammering on for 2 hours 44, nearly 2 hours 45 minutes now.
I do have these, but that's all I've got that I can fall back on if these die on me, and they're down to like 1%. So I just thought I better warn you in case all of a sudden I'm talking and you don't hear me, or you're talking and I don't hear you. I guess that's how it works.
That's fine.
I'm not very practical. I'm really into science and all that, but when it comes to the practicality of things, I'm terrible at it. Well, I can't unzip a bag to get a head of lettuce out of it or something, but I can basically do Drake's equation. But that's how my mind works. It works one way and not the other, apparently.
Yeah.
I can't fix anything. I don't. If something breaks, I have no idea how to go about making it work again. So I just buy a new one. So,
Yeah,
but I'm not
but
crazy
you know,
about these earbuds.
but then, do you know what? I would rather talk to somebody like you than I would someone who knows how to change a plug.
I don't know when that plug needs changing. I wish I had someone around that could do it for me.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, there is that as well. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think there is a you know, I have got a theory, and I think it's we're very important, and we've always shown to be important. We are.
You sure we're not just self-important? We think we're important,
Well,
therefore
of
we're
course we
important.
are. Of course we're
Yeah,
narcissistic. We're narcissistic by nature. We can't help it sometimes. You know, we you know, if anything, you know, it's when it comes push, you know, push to shove, it's like kind of we will protect ours and our own. You know, you know, it's just a natural instinct that, you know, people have. It's yeah, it just, you know, I mean, if it's the last slice of toast, you know, and cup of tea, I'm having it, Rob, not you.
I've just lost you. The
Oh,
sound
okay, maybe
cut.
that was a benefit
I'm gonna
then.
try
Maybe
these
that's a
real fast, see
bonus.
if they work. They may
Well,
not.
maybe that's a
In which
bonus.
case,
I think you done it on
I don't know
purpose,
what to
didn't
do.
you?
Hang on.
A lot of people do that,
Just plug this in right
where they
here.
just sort of switch off and pretend they can't hear me. Yeah, I don't blame you at all. Yeah,
And try these real fast.
mother does the same thing. She turns her hearing aid off.
Are you saying anything?
Yeah, I said a lot about
No,
you.
I'm not hearing anything. I was afraid these might not work.
All right, not a problem.
Yeah,
All right, Rob,
I can't hear you anymore.
sign
Bye.
language. Okay, all
I
right.
guess our time is up. But thank you
Okay.
for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
No